At Iowa State, when they win 10 games, it's a celebration. I saw it, watched it, heard the roars in Orlando on Saturday as Mario Cristobal tried to put into words Miami's third disappointing loss in a month. At Arizona State, where they experienced an amazing season of emergence themselves before falling just short to Texas on Wednesday, they might just have a parade. Here at Miami, it's a little bit different. Here at Miami, the end of the season seems to always be met with panic and anger. The greatness of Cam Ward, which unquestionably elevated what would have been an average football team to 10 wins this year and on the cusp of an ACC championship, a berth in the college football playoff, very fairly raised everybody's expectations this year. Yours, mine, and everybody in between. The teams, the administration, the fan base, everybody's expectations were very fairly elevated. But when things fell apart down the stretch, it was like a balloon popped. And we suddenly forgot that this really was half of a football team this year with a defense not ready for prime time. Unfortunately, I might add, that was shaky as hell in pretty much every single ACC game in which it played. Okay. Miami, and I'll say this unfortunately and acknowledge that this is something that Mario Cristobal has to quickly figure out, does not yet have a complete roster. It's why they're working around the clock as we sit here tonight and meet again on this edition of CaneSport Live to fortify that roster through the transfer portal. It's not built to the point where everybody wants and needs to see it built. It's an ongoing process. I think if you had asked Mario Cristobal when he took this job 3+ years ago, he would have hoped that by now it would be totally built. But I think we learned loud and clear that it is not yet there, that there was a void of impact talent after maybe Cam Ward, Elijah Arroyo, who was unbelievable this year. Maybe you can include Jalen Rivers in that group, had a pretty good year on the O-line. But there were no difference makers on the defensive side of the ball. And Lance Guidry clearly struggled with this particular group of personnel. But Miami has won 10 games just one other time in the past 20 years. Okay. So I think a question that we have to ask tonight is why, as a fan base, are we overcome by so much doom and gloom? We're going to talk about all of that and more tonight as we embark on this season finale of the People's Show, CaneSport Live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. We welcome you once again to your show, CaneSport Live, presented tonight by Caneswear, your top destination for Miami Hurricanes gear. This is your show. It'll be driven by your interaction. If you would like to come on the show, all you got to do is email us at canesport@yahoo.com. I will put that on the bottom of the screen for you. You send us an email, and we will shoot you the link to the studio, and we will bring you on the show in the order that you land in the studio. My cohort, Matt Shodell, is going to be joining me tonight. As usual, later in the show, we'll be joined by the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner, here in the Asylum. Before we get going, I got to tell you, I promised one of our listeners, you guys will recognize him, T-Dog, that I would come to tonight's show armed with a very healthy Moscow Mule flask, okay? And I just want to tell you, I've got it. Here it is. I've got the Moscow Mule on ice. I've got my 2001 Rose Bowl shot glass. How about that, huh? So I'm going to begin tonight's show with a shot. T-Dog, that's for you. And let's start the show tonight now by bringing in a guy that I think everybody needs a shot to listen to, but I expect him to have some pretty insightful things to say tonight. And that's Matt Shodell. And Matt, welcome back to CaneSport Live. Thank you for staying up with us tonight. And listen, this bowl game was interesting, and I don't think we need to spend the entire show harping on the bowl game because it was just a season finale. It really, was somewhat meaningless, quite frankly. I mean, Miami went into the game with 10 wins. They left with 10 wins, and the season is the season. The season really fell apart in the Georgia Tech game and the Syracuse game, and now we're sitting here and horrible second half from Emory Williams. We're in mass panic over the quarterback situation. We don't know who's going to be there for next season. Is it going to be a guy coming out of the portal? Can Emory somehow bounce back from that experience up there in Orlando, which is something that I think is easier said than done. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then on top of it, you got to go hire a new defensive coordinator because Lance Guidry has been fired. And you have a bunch of holes to plug because you've lost a lot of talent to graduation and end of eligibility that has to be replaced. And while acknowledging that even what you had before you have to replace that was not good enough. Okay. And I think we all will agree that if Cam Ward was not the quarterback of this football team, probably would have been about an 8-win season, and certainly would have been a lopsided Pop-Tarts bowl game and not in the right direction. And, we'll talk a little bit about the decision to only play the first half of the game. Obviously that had a great impact. I don't think there's any question that Miami wins that football game if Cam Ward goes the distance. But just to set the record straight, it was predetermined before the game that he would not go the distance. When they were practicing, and this is really key, and this is the first time you guys are going to be hearing this, but when they were practicing for the game over those few weeks, there was the possibility that Cam Ward was going to go the distance, and they practiced for him to go the distance. Now, as the game got closer and a lot of people started questioning Cam Ward's wisdom, justifiably so. I mean, he had no business on the field. There's not an agent in America that would have said, Cam, go play that bowl game, okay? He wanted to play. I'm assuming he wanted to set the touchdown record, and he wanted to be there for his team. It was not decided until really the final, I believe, 48 hours before kickoff that he would not play the entire game. And it really was going to be the first quarter. In the heat of the battle, it got stretched to halftime. But to my eye, I don't think Emory Williams was properly prepared for that game and for that moment. It was in total disarray. His timing was off, seemed very nervous, and certainly Shannon Dawson did not do anything to make it easier on him with the way that the game was called once he did get in the game. So much to touch on. Matt, I'm going to give you the floor. Before we go to our viewers, your general thoughts on the state of affairs right now with the Miami football program.
Well, I'd say I was as disturbed by the end of the season as I was by you thinking you could take a shot of a sipping drink, a
Moscow Mule, T-Dog.
Yeah, you can take a shot of straight up alcohol. I've never seen
T-Dog. Tell him, please. Why are we consuming Moscow Mules tonight?
T-Dog, you know what else you should tell him? Tell him when he put the ginger beer in the shaker, should he shake it up, T-Dog? Should he shake up the shaker with a ginger beer in there?
Absolutely.
No, the top would explode if it was actually made correctly, unfortunately.
Hey,
T-Dog.
I'm gonna fix mine right now. I got some coconut 1800. Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all, boys. Great year with you, boys. I want you to know that every morning I wake up looking forward to listening to y'all on YouTube. Seriously, I get dressed, do my regimen or whatever, listen to you, boys. So you have a great platform, a great product. I give you shit sometimes on the board, but y'all have a really, really, really good product. So happy New Year.
All right, man.
you.
Same to you. But now I'm gonna make you listen for a few more minutes because we got to let Matt say his piece.
I mean, shout out to K Mills, who knows what's up. But in terms of, you don't seem to understand. I don't know why you don't understand this. You don't understand that Miami won 10 games and fans are upset. You can't wrap your head around that concept.
No, I can. It's the expectation.
It's not the expectations, believe it or not, at this point. Because what happened this year was the team was 9-0, and everybody was fearful that it was fake because that's what they've been accustomed to, which you'd think would make the hard landing softer, but it doesn't, because it's like going to the movies and, you know, it's your favorite movie and you're going every day and it's always a different favorite movie. And then with 5 minutes left, you don't get to the end of the movie, right? It's just the projector stops every single day and you don't get to the end of the movie. We haven't seen an actual ending to a Miami season the way it's supposed to go for 22 years. That's why fans are upset, not because they won 10 games. They don't care about 10 wins. They may as well have won 5 wins, but had won 5 games because the end result's the same. That's the problem. You keep saying 10 wins, 10 wins. That's not what fans are fixated on. The new formula is make the playoffs, right? At least make the ACC title game. If you don't do either, it doesn't matter if you win no games because you're going to have to rebuild the team the next year anyway in the current NIL day and age. It's not like the old days where, oh, okay, we won 10. We have, 14 starters will be back. We're going to be amazing next year. No, now it's, okay, we're loaded with NIL players because half the team was that started this year were from the portal. Half the team that were starters were from the portal. That's a fact. And you got to rebuild the team every single year. So it was a wasted year. It doesn't matter if it was 0 wins or 10 wins because look at FSU. As easily as you can go from undefeated regular season to 1 or 2 wins, you can do the reverse nowadays very easily. So what's disheartening is that they didn't do it with the best offense this team has ever seen in the history of Miami football, including 2001, okay? The most productive offense, and they still couldn't even make a top 12 at the end of the year. They weren't even in the top 2 ACC teams at the end of the year. That's what fans are upset about. They lose 3 out of the final 4 games and got worse as the year went on. They didn't have an answer on defense for a guy Mario Cristobal hired. Now he's looking for his 3rd defense coordinator second, is it 3, right?
3rd. It'll now be 3rd, yes.
3rd defense coordinator. He's on his 2nd offense coordinator. He hasn't been here very long. So fans, understandably, there's a message board post. What grade would you give Mario for roster building? And he's got more C's than B's and more D's and more F's than A's. I mean, these are fans. These are fans who want to see the program succeed. These aren't, bots who are trying to get somebody elected president. These are real people who are upset with what's happening. And the only way out of it, to me right now, if you're looking for the bright future, is a much better defensive coordinator, obviously, and a quarterback who can make plays. Because if the offense won't be as good as it was last year. It just won't be. Statistically, it's not going to happen. But if you get a good game manager at quarterback, a guy who throws 25 to 30 touchdowns with 4 or 5 interceptions, you got a good offensive line, you got a good run game, and if you have a better defense, which I think that's going to be the key. Just like I was talking about with FSU being terrible, being great, being terrible, being great, you can make a great defense in the portal. Like, that's the way it is now. You're not stuck at, oh, our defense sucks, we have nobody coming back, we're going to be terrible again. That's not how it is anymore. So if the defense can even be middle of the road defense, and if the offense can be, a pretty good offense, like the ACC is not that good. And yeah, you might lose to a Florida, might lose to Notre Dame, but if you can go through the ACC schedule with 1 loss and make the ACC title game, even with 3 losses, and then you win that, or even potentially lose that, like, you're right there. You're right there for the playoffs. So as much as fans want to say, oh my gosh, the schedule is so hard because of the non-conference games are really hard, right? With Notre Dame, Florida, whoever else. There's only like 1 easy game in the whole schedule. What's the other one that I'm missing?
South Florida.
Yeah, it's USF. Yeah, so they should win that. But even if you lose those 2 non-conference games, like, you can still get to that ACC title game fairly easily with a good team. You're not playing Clemson next year. Not that Clemson's going to be great, but yeah, there are some really good teams on the schedule in the ACC. But at the same time, like, it's doable. It's doable. So that's what you have to hang your hat on. And to me, 2025 is the key, because if Mario fails in year 4, and the first 3 years he had basically the same record that Manny Diaz had in Manny Diaz's first 3 years, right? So if in year 4 Mario Cristobal doesn't get to even 9 wins, if he's at 8 wins or less, the outside noise is going to be just almost to the point that it's hard at that point to get top recruits, to get transfer portal guys, right? People are going to be so mad and upset, which is why in the bowl game, I really wish they had given all these young guys playing time. I think Mario was so fixated on trying to win and get to 11 wins.
Wanted to win
Instead of
11.
being fixated on, I need to know what I have coming back and who I should jettison and who maybe is better than I thought they were in practices, because some guys are gamers. Like, that's just the truth. And if you don't put them in a game, you're not going to know, right? And we already saw, we saw Brashard Smith leave, right? Did he get a lot of opportunities here? No, but they knew he was good, but they didn't make a system that would fit him. And he was one of the best running backs in the ACC. SMU's had 2 defensive linemen from Miami, right? Jafari Harvey. I can never pronounce it. And Jared Harrison Hunt, right? And they had some other guys.
Elijah Roberts.
And Elijah Roberts had a lot of sacks. Like, those were guys who never started him. I know Jafari got a couple of starts, but they never really had major opportunities at Miami. I don't think Miami ever really knew what they had. Jared Harrison Hunt, they thought he was soft. Like, that's the truth. They said he was soft. He always seemed to be complaining about stuff.
He was.
Well, he didn't seem soft this year, did he?
He was better, but he was soft.
My point is this.
The other guys were problems off the field. They had to go.
Right. Okay. Well, my point is, if you play some of these guys a little more, right? Once the season's over for all intents and purposes, which it was after the Syracuse game, like, we needed to see Justin Scott in the bowl game. We needed to see whoever else was available that was young. Like, it was just a waste. The bowl game was a waste. It's so disheartening to not see a glimpse of the future and just, have, even when you bring in your quarterback potentially the future, it looked like that, and not even let him throw the ball until a desperation last drive. The whole thing was so messed up to me. I can't even wrap my head around it. A meaningless game. Let Emory Williams throw the damn ball. Run your offense. They were playing so conservatively to win it was a meaningless bowl game to me. I don't care if they would have won with Cam Ward. I wanted to see the future in that game. I wasn't even keeping score. It was like when I'm playing tennis with my wife. I probably win 6-love, and lose 1 point. I just say, let's not keep score. Let's just hit the ball, That's what they should have done. They should have just hit the ball.
All right. Well, there's so much for us to unwrap here tonight. So many things. I kind of agreed with you. I wanted to see more of the younger guys too. But, I think that what we're seeing here by some of this action in the last few days in the transfer portal is they feel they have a pretty decent grasp on what they have coming back. And if they don't like it, it's being let go. We're watching guys that were starters the entire season get sent to the transfer portal. Guys like Deani Hill, Jaden Harris. This is the new age of college football. If you're not performing, you're going to be replaced. And they are hitting the portal hard for defensive backs in particular, obviously chasing a quarterback, trying to get some explosiveness into the receiver room. They got Chase Daniels from LSU. They're trying to get the Branch kid from USC, who is elite. Exactly what this program needs, a guy that is a threat to go the distance every time he touches the ball. So they're looking to make moves here to make this roster more complete going into next season. They feel very good about the defensive line. The fact that Mesidor and Bain did not have good seasons, a lot of that is attributed to the scheme and the coaching of Lance Guidry. Right or wrong, I'm just saying that we certainly felt that we saw significant regression on those guys that was inexplicable. And they were never really being utilized to fit their skill set, which is turn them loose, go after the quarterback, make disruptive plays. And the secondary was obviously in total disarray the whole year. As we watch these playoff games, I don't see secondaries with guys running around, waving their hands, wondering what they're supposed to be doing. These kids know their assignments. We're not seeing a ton of busts like what we saw from the Canes defense this year. The entire defensive side of the organization was a complete mess this season. They let down Mario Cristobal, who is not a defensive coach and will never proclaim himself to be a defensive coach, because now he's taking the animosity of the fan base because of it. They let down the best offense possibly to ever play at Miami, a generational quarterback who kept getting better and better as the season went on and had the toolbox to lead Miami deep into this playoff run. As we're watching these playoffs, we're not seeing too many offenses look as good as the Miami offense this year. Ohio State's got Jeremiah Smith going crazy. But Miami would have been very competitive, I believe, in these playoffs if the defense had just been average. So now you got a lot of rebuilding going on. But I don't see the panic inside the program that I'm sensing from the fan base. Okay, they have a plan. They've turned the page. Maybe Mario Cristobal took 12 hours to get over, and he was devastated after that game. But he has come back with a very definitive plan here to get this roster ready for a new football season. I'm going to be called a Mario apologist. I'm going to be called a blind Mario supporter. Fine, whatever. I get it. It's not as far along after year 3 as everybody would have hoped it would be, I'm sure, including himself. But they have a plan. I like the direction they're going in. We'll see who they can get to play quarterback. We'll see what they can finish off here in the portal. And then we could start thinking about what the prospects might be for 2025. So let's go out to you guys now. Want to hear what everybody has to say. Let's start out tonight. Why the hell not? Let's start out with our man, Greg. Greg, welcome back to CaneSport Live. Could hear you screaming in Orlando. I don't know if it was just in my head or whether you were actually in the stadium. But your thoughts for us tonight.
Okay. How you doing? I don't know where to start. Okay, let's start with the quarterback situation. Mario Cristobal in the past has settled for mediocre quarterbacks. Anthony Brown for 2 years at Oregon, and he was poised to start this past year with Poffenbarger as his quarterback, or the stiff Emory Williams, okay? Where are we going for a quarterback when teams like Georgia, after this abomination of an offense tonight, Alabama, Ohio State is probably going to be looking for a quarterback, and USC. Where are we getting a quarterback at this stage? Let's start with that one. Give me an answer.
Well, I'll start it. I think they're looking to see who ends up in the portal. I think that, all these teams that have been playing this week have 5-day windows after their games to go into the portal. When there's coaching changes, they have windows to go into the portal. And I think that they're not rushing because there's no reason to rush. There's nothing there to rush to. There was the one kid from Washington State that they took a shot at. He had other plans. And now I think they're surveying the landscape and weighing different options. Greg, the thing that you don't want to get into is a situation where you're overpaying for an average guy, which could easily happen with the way agents are today. And, we like to think Miami is in a great place NIL-wise, and it is. I mean, there is a very good NIL budget at Miami. But what's happened over the last couple of years is everybody now has a good NIL budget, and it's not unlimited. Like you can't just go from 20 to 30 to $40 million budgets. They have to manage. They have to manage this almost like an NFL franchise manages a salary cap. And if that NFL franchise spends 10, 20, $30 million on a quarterback, they have less money for the rest of the team. So I think that they're evaluating right now what's out there. We've heard some scuttlebutt of some guys that might be going in the portal. The kid that ended the year as the starter at USC is one possibility. There's some others as well. There's talk about Carson Beck. There's talk about Quinn Ewers, who will command a big number if he ends up in the portal. Texas is not going to be able to keep both those quarterbacks. Okay, they're just not. One of them is going to have to go. I'm guessing that they're going to commit to Arch Manning, and Quinn Ewers is going to find that he's got about a 6th-round draft grade in the NFL, and he's going to need to come back to college. So, maybe they take a run at somebody like that. It's going to cost a lot of money. The other guy I mentioned won't be anywhere near as expensive, and there'll be more. But I think what you're going to see over the next few days is them continue to survey the landscape. Obviously, there's agents. All these kids have agents, and you can't tamper with kids, but that's what doesn't stop their agents from reaching out. And Miami will be a popular destination for quarterbacks because of what Cam Ward did this year, because of the level of talent that is expected to be on the team going into next season. And we'll see what happens. I don't have a prediction, Matt. I assume you don't have one either. I mean, we do not know where it is going to land as we sit here right now.
Oh, okay. Let's get. By the way, how are we going to get Branch to commit when we don't have a quarterback? How's that going to work?
He may not commit until we do have a quarterback. He doesn't have to.
But if somebody else gets a quarterback first, he'll probably commit there. Okay.
Don't know, Greg. But you can't you can't make a quarterback just appear like magic. Like you just said, you don't want him to have an average quarterback. So you can't just make this happen if the right guy's not in the portal.
But Carson Beck already declared for the NFL. So did Milroe.
So did Cam Ward last year.
Yeah, okay. All right. Let's get off that. Okay. You're talking about roster building. From the 2022 class, out of the 15 players, we only have 5 left. From the 2023 class, this is only 2 years ago, out of the 25 players, we only have 14 left. What does that tell you? That Mario, does he know how to judge talent or what? He's such a great recruiter. He can bring them in, but they're not good. So who gives a crap if they have 4 stars or 5 stars? How is that possible? We could only have 14 out of 25 guys left.
Matt, this is your expertise, man.
Well, I have to talk to Greg. I don't think I had to converse. So what do you want to know, Greg? You want to know how many people are?
No, he says it's 14 out of 25 left from the 23 recruiting class, which is fairly.
I didn't do
the first Mario class.
I didn't do the math, but I can tell you generally that how it used to be is different than how it is now. So a few years ago, if you said, "Oh my gosh," half of a class you took 2 years ago is all gone, it would be a disaster. You can't really replace them in the portal back then, and it's hard to do and this and that. But I would argue that they've actually wanted some of these guys to leave. Now, are those recruiting misses? Yes. Has Mario Cristobal fallen in love with the portal? Yes. It's a combination of both of those. Mario is a great recruiter, and I think he's a great developer, although you can't tell anymore because he's bringing in mostly portal guys to play and fill in the gaps that he has, right? But it's hard for him to know where the gaps are because as much as I've covered this team over the years, I've always found this to be true no matter who's coaching. Coaches love experienced players, even if they're not as talented physically as younger guys. They want experienced players. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to me sometimes to see that. And I understand why, because guys that make coaches look good on film are guys who are where they're supposed to be, right? When Pro Football Focus is grading out players, for instance, they don't know if a receiver ran the wrong route. They don't know what an assignment is. If a lineman was supposed to pull and just stayed where he was, even if he made a good block. Miami coaches know what's supposed to happen, and they know that young guys tend to bust at a much higher rate than experienced guys. But with that said, I remember back in the days Miami was winning championships, coaches would say to me, I'd rather have a guy going 100 miles an hour in the wrong direction than a guy going 10 miles an hour in the right direction. And I still believe that to be true, but coaches don't believe that anymore. And when I see Mario Cristobal taking guys from lower level programs in the portal, taking guys who were good but not great from Power 4 programs, guys who even just started for 1 year at a TCU or whatever, and now they're going to start over some guy who's in his 3rd year that was recruited by Miami who just hasn't had a chance at Miami. I don't know the answer to what coaches see that make them say, okay, I want an average portal guy instead of the guy I recruited and it's been here for 3 years, right? Like Ryan Rodriguez, for instance, right? They're talking about how great Ryan Rodriguez is for the last 2 years. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. He's going to be great. Well, they're trying to get every center under the sun right now to start over Ryan Rodriguez next year. So I guess he's not that great, right? But then again, we haven't really seen Ryan Rodriguez do anything. He's been hurt a lot. There's no clear, coherent answer I can give you, Greg, other than the fact that Mario Cristobal has fallen in love with the transfer portal, I think, so far to the detriment of this program, because you know for a fact, we've seen it already, those first 2 portal classes he took were failures. And actually, we have a story tomorrow coming out about it. Last year, this year, I should say, right? Last year, 2024, I don't know if that's last year or this year anymore. So last year, this year, I'll call it. Last year, this year, he did much better, right? Cam Ward was amazing. David Martinez, the last half of the year, was as good as anyone in the country that, wasn't playing at Boise State or Arizona State. The receivers, that was a bust. Sam Brown, I'd say, was a bust, right? But I think Zach Carpenter was better than what they had. And then on defense, it was a disaster on defense overall, but they took a lot of portal guys instead of guys that they had homegrown. So you could argue on defense that they just really missed all over the place, right? Was Mish Powell great when they took him? Some people thought so, right? From a championship program, but he didn't play well here. Wasn't fast enough here. So it's hard to translate. He was good there. Will he be good here, right? You take a Jacksonville State safety, Zachariah Poyser. Is he going to be amazing at Miami after one good year there? I don't think so, but maybe he will be. I'm not the coach. Will he be better than what they already had? Will he be better than Dylan Day? I don't think so, but they seem to think so. The guy's not coming here to be a backup and sit behind Dylan Day, right? So, I don't know if that answers your question, Greg. It's a little frustrating to me when I see some of these things with the portal going on, because I know Mario's a great recruiter and he has a history of developing talent. And to take talent that's been developed somewhere else and plug it in for a year as half your roster doesn't make sense to me, but that's what he's been doing.
Greg, let me add to that. I think the problem is, Matt distinguishes the portal, regular recruiting. I don't think it really matters where players come from in today's college football. But I think the problem has been similar in both the portal and regular recruiting. And it goes back to the origin of your original question, which is evaluation of recruits. And that is one area of the program that I think Mario can improve significantly. I hope he does. Because you're right, the percentages are not as good as you would want them to be. And, I think that what you're going to see is a continuation of this pattern, though, because number one, I think you're going to see freshmen have to play. A lot more freshmen are going to have to play. And I think that also that in terms of the guys that don't show that they're worthy of playing very quickly are not going to be able to linger for year after year after year because of where everything's going with revenue sharing and NIL and how the dollars keep getting bigger and bigger. And to get impactful players, and you guys hear me talk about impact players all the time, this program has not had enough of them for 2 decades and did not this year have enough, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But to get those impact players and keep them, you're going to have to spend an enormous amount of money. And you're not going to be able to afford to have guys just hanging out for year on top of year that aren't making contributions to the team. This is going to change. It is going to take an adjustment by football programs. It's going to take an adjustment by us out here on the other side because our thinking is going to have to be different. It's not going to be what we've been watching for our whole lives.
Okay. Let's do a quick comparison of Marcus Freeman versus Mario Cristobal. Marcus Freeman, we have recruited at least as well, if not better than him. And he rarely uses the portal, but he's in the Final Four and we're lingering in the abyss.
And our offense is at least twice as good as theirs.
And their defense is 10 times better than ours.
Correct.
So
and who's coaching that defense?
Al Golden.
Good job, Gary.
Huh?
He said it.
But think about that. A veteran coach who has, 10 years of head coaching experience, who has stabilized, had a major role in stabilizing things for Marcus Freeman, who's very inexperienced as a head coach, and has been an invaluable hire at Notre Dame. Miami doesn't have an Al Golden. I'm sorry. They don't have an Al Golden.
You don't think Marcus Freeman has anything to do with the defense? That's his calling card.
I think he does, Greg, but I understand that, at least in my opinion, that when he added Al Golden to that staff, it turned that program around. Okay, they weren't anywhere near at this level in the first I think I would say 2 years. This is his. I'm trying to remember if this is his third or fourth, but in his first 2 years,
third year,
they weren't anywhere near at this level. And I think Al Golden's presence has been enormous, and I think Mario Cristobal needs an Al Golden. I really do. He needs a coach like that who maybe has had head coaching experience, who brings a skill set to the table that is beyond just your run-of-the-mill coordinators, which is honestly what we've had here. And I think on top of that, he needs better recruiters, and he's trying to compensate for the whole thing himself. And he's as good a recruiting head coach as there is in the country. There's no doubt about it. But you're not recruiting 18 to 24 kids anymore. You're recruiting 40 kids every year. It's an enormous task for one guy to have to compensate for recruiting deficiencies up and down the coaching roster. So those two things, I think, are the two things that should be on Mario's hit list here very quickly in this offseason.
Okay. My final thing, Matt.
Yeah.
Why are you so sure we're going to lose to Florida next year? Well, they brought in nothing in the portal yet. Why are they going to beat us? What did it? DJ Lagway had 12 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He's not the next coming of Lamar Jackson, okay? So I don't see where they're going to beat us. I don't know where you're coming up with that. Yeah, but anyway,
I used the word if. I said if, even if. I literally said even if Miami loses to Florida and Notre Dame, they can still win in the ACC, lose one game in the ACC, make the ACC title game, be in the playoffs. That's what I said. Even if.
We don't even know who's going to be on the team next year.
I didn't say when they lose to Florida. When they lose, if I said when they lose to Florida, I would understand where you're coming from.
Okay. You didn't say that. We don't even know what this team's going to look like next year.
My last quick point to Matt again. Matt, don't deny this. You said this year we should win 10 games, and next year we should compete for a national championship. Did you or did you not say that?
Why would I deny that? Of course I said that.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for your honesty.
Not only have I said it, Greg, I said it multiple times, and now I'm taking it back. I am disavowing whoever said that. I don't know who said it. It looked like me, but it must not have been me who said that. It was somebody else.
You'll flip-flop like Kamala Harris. Okay. Nice talking
keep politics out. We have enough problems tonight. Keep politics out of it.
I told you 2 weeks ago, Quinn Ewers is who we have to get.
Yeah, you still believe it?
And he's better than a 6th-round pick after that performance yesterday. Okay. See you later.
It's going to be interesting to see if he ends up in the portal, number one. And if he does end up in the portal, does Miami make a run?
Yeah. College football is all about who's got the biggest billionaire back in the program. Okay, goodbye.
Didn't help Oregon yesterday. They got more money than anybody. It didn't help.
Ohio State looks pretty good. Okay. See you later.
They wouldn't look so good if Jeremiah Smith had come to the U like he should have. All right, Greg. Thank you, man.
Trump.
Hey, have a great off season.
You too.
We'll see you again in August.
It was a pleasure. Pleasure, G-Reg. Now that he's gone, I can actually say that I'm not retracting my statement. I don't want to say it to him and have his head explode. I'm not retracting my statement that they're going to compete for national title. Why should I retract it now? Let's see who they get. Like, it's not over. Fans are acting like it's over. They can never win next year. With NIL, everything is possible. There's something called a second portal window, okay? They can see what they're still missing in the spring, and if they're actually good coaches and bring in a GM who actually can oversee some stuff and make some suggestions, maybe bring in a defensive coordinator where all his great players can transfer in the second window if they're not a playoff team, right? They can still compete to win a national championship next year. That means being in the playoffs, right? Being a top 12 team. They can still do that next year. I'm not retracting my statement, Greg. I just said that so that you would not yell at me. I'm keeping my statement as is. I said 10 wins this year, which they did, and I'm compete for a national title next year, which they still may. As dubious as it may seem right now, nothing's ever as bad as it seems. Nothing's ever as good as it seems. I would say things seem pretty bad right now because of the way the year ended and because, there's just not a lot of optimism with how things have gone through the first 3 years. You never know. Things can turn around.
Yeah, but if you get a quarterback, okay, you've got Jordan Lyle coming back, who they quietly think could be one of the greatest running backs in Miami history starting next year. Okay, you got Mark Fletcher coming back. You've got Elijah Lofton sitting over here on the side. That's an elite football player that if Shannon Dawson can figure out ways to scheme for him, could be a massive weapon in the offense next year. It has to be significantly more involved. They're going to try to pick up at least one tight end in the portal to complement Lofton. They're trying to improve the receiver position for obvious reasons. It's very, very light right now, but you feel like you have a very good offensive line coming back. They're not in a panic mode about the defensive line and linebackers. They feel Bain and Mesidor will be much better with a new coordinator next year. Popo Aguirre played some decent middle linebacker. They think he'll be better next year. Wesley Besaint is still back. Alderman is back at linebacker. And then they're just totally rebuilding the secondary with guys that they believe are better than what they were playing with this year. So there's not the mass panic within the walls that there is out here. But like Matt, I feel like they need a lot. Okay. And they can't get enough players here in the next few weeks in this portal. I think they need help at every position. I hope they find it. But we can't really begin to predict what's going to happen next year right now because we do not have a clue who that quarterback is going to be. We don't have a clue what this football team really is going to look like coming out of spring practice.
Well, you know what's interesting is and you actually brought this up, and I totally agree with it. When we had one of our many conversations that you bother me with on a daily basis, you said that you don't think Miami's going to play it even close to the 85 limit because if you want to do a price per player and you want to max out each player's potential money, right? You want to pay as much as possible per player. To have an extra 20 players each making 50 to 100 grand, you're better off taking fewer players like at an NFL model, right? You don't need third teamers anymore, hypothetically. If you can have a really, really good two deep, like that's the way to win is a really, really good two deep, and hopefully no one gets hurt. I do think that's the way to max out your money.
Yeah, these people are talking about 105-man rosters.
No,
are they out of their minds? Maybe some of these teams that have unlimited budgets, and the SEC, the Big Ten, whatever, they'll carry 100 players. But you're talking about having to pay all those guys revenue sharing. You got to pay for their scholarships. You got to pay for their books, their housing, their expenses, and all that. You talk about
their books. They can afford the books. Go with some of the bigger items.
You're talking about millions of dollars of extra money that's just wasted because you can't play 100 guys. The whole concept's ridiculous. I don't think we'll see Miami go there.
Why does put Kane's Cats Heat up 305 on? I think he wants to yell at me, and then maybe I can leave the show after that. That'll be the end of me. Let him on.
Yeah, we will. But first, I got to go back to T-Dog because tonight's show's partially in honor of him and his Moscow Mules.
Thanks for participating, Matt. Loser.
What do you want from me? Do you know how much I want to be completely wasted right now? But to deal with Gary, listen, it's a live show. If we could edit it out, maybe I'd take a shot or two. I have a very low tolerance.
You better be lucky.
Anyone who knows me.
You gave me one earlier this year, so I digress.
That was the one.
I had to put up my signage again about the 5-star coaching, man, because look at all those 5-star players on UGA's team right now. And what do they look like today? Granted, they were missing a quarterback for sure. We know that. But still, shouldn't the backup be a 5-star as well, a 4-star? Like, don't they?
He was. That kid,
Exactly.
that kid had a better resume in Georgia than Luke Nickel.
So that's what I'm saying. So, bro, like at the end of the day, you have to have superior coaching, man, in this game because you're never going to get the best player every year. Like that's never going to happen. Like we need to let go of this 2001 fantasy. Like that's not coming back. That's an outlier. That's a unicorn. All right. You're going to get that once in a lifetime. So you can't depend on every year landing the best player at every position. That's not how it works. What you have to have is consistent, great coaching that will keep you in every game. That is what you need every year. That is sustainable. You can't sustain having the best talent every year. It's not going to happen, especially not with this money, because 1 year Ohio State might outbid you or UGA might outbid you. So then what? Now you don't have the best running back or the best quarterback or the best D lineman. But if you keep the brain trust right, if you keep that intact, you will compete in games. And this was what you saw today. That UGA got out freaking coached today, bro. It was ridiculous. There's no way with that raggedy ass Notre Dame offense, they should have won that game, bro. I'm sorry. Not in today's football. That shit looked like the 90s football. They basically ran the ball. He had 90 plus yards passing.
I don't think Notre Dame's going to hold up against Penn State. I don't think they had.
I think they're going to beat Penn State because I agree with y'all. Yeah, I agree with y'all. I think, well, Penn State's never been impressive offensively to me ever. And so I think Freeman, which he does get credit for that defense, Gary, because yes, I agree they took it to another level with Golden, but his defense was solid before Golden even got there. And his special teams, which he is over, is elite. So I've been saying from day one, like you have to have a coach be elite in some type of coaching, either offensively, defensively, or special teams. He has to be elite in one of those things, or not elite, but at least very good in one of those things. He has to bring that to the table. You can't just keep relying on hiring somebody because guess what? When that guy is hot, another team is going to go grab him for a head coaching position. Now you're back to square one. You have to bring something to the table on game days other than just recruiting. Thoughts?
Well, the new, with the new system, every player's a free agent every year. So you're rebuilding your roster every single year, I mean, that's the real challenge. And Mario Cristobal has, and I don't know if this is to your point or not, but Mario Cristobal has tried to do everything himself. He's a micromanager, which Al Golden was. Certain coaches are just like that. They want to be on top of everything versus, hey, I'm going to trust this guy to do his job, because they probably have noticed in the past some guys haven't done their jobs, right? And then the head coach takes the blame for it. So being a micromanager in this era, in this day and age, like, good luck. It will kill you. There's too much to do. You're a babysitter for your team. You're bringing together a bunch of players from all over the country every single year with different backgrounds, different ways they were coached, and trying to meld them into your culture in 1 year, every single year starting over, right? It used to be you build the team culture, that the classes ahead of you teach you how it's done, right? That doesn't exist anymore. Every year is its own animal. So you got to deal with that. You got to deal with hiring new coaches, having coaches maybe leave, other teams trying to recruit your players, other parents complaining to you, why isn't my kid playing? My kid's going to leave. I mean, the amount of things that go into roster building now, like to even say that you have to recruit and develop, like it's almost antithetical, because once you develop them, they can just leave. You have to pay them more for developing them. Like, you basically are making them money to produce for a different team. That's essentially what it could become now. It's insanity. And if that's the case, then a lot of coaches would be happier just taking portal guys for a year or two.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like in the NFL, do you want a bunch of rookies on your team who might be great, or do you want a bunch of guys who are great? Right. And that's the dilemma right now. Is you got to make that combination with the money you have.
I posted in the Storm Center thread that, hey, to me, you shouldn't even be excited about recruiting anymore. Like, high school recruiting to me is like, that's dinosaur days, bro. Like,
well, it really isn't though.
No, bro. And I'm gonna tell you why, Gary. Because even if you land somebody great, he could dip. He could leave.
Correct.
So it's like
they got to find a way to make these multi-year deals. They have to.
Unless they don't have to change the structure of this, like NCAA or whomever. They're gonna have to change the structure, because if it continues like the way that it is for the next 3 to 5 years, there's no need to get excited about high school recruiting.
They have multi-year deals in the NFL. Why not now in college?
I agree, but again, structurally, you're gonna have to change something on the system level, at the structure level, because to me, I get more excited about the transfers because at least I know that guy is tried and true.
And that guy's coming into play right away. Yeah,
correct. And he's got an agenda. He's like, I gotta boost my stock because I'm usually 1 or 2 years away from the NFL. Let me boost my stock. These high school kids are getting the money already, and then they're becoming fat cats and kind of like relaxing, bro. Like,
but you know what, T-Dog? Do they really always? They don't always boost their stock. You think Tyler Barron boosted his stock this year? I don't think so.
I know your boy Sam Brown damn sure did his sorry ass. I got
exactly. Now,
my second point, damn it. I told you he was stealing JoJo's snaps. And next year when y'all see JoJo on the field, granted, JoJo is not Jeremiah Smith. Hell, nobody is Jeremiah Smith right now, okay? But I'm telling you, he was stealing this kid's snaps, man.
But in fairness, you're going to see JoJo with no Jacoby George, with no Restrepo.
Okay.
With no Cam Ward.
No Horton. Yeah, JoJo's going to have to be the dude next year.
But again, and that one play that I saw him, he did that against an upperclassman, by the way.
Yeah.
He beat him and he broke tackle from him and scored. I ain't seen Sam Brown do that one time. And he's an upperclassman. Like, come on, bro.
Well, that's what I was saying before. They tend to play experienced players over inexperienced players to their own detriment sometimes. I agree with you 100%. Now, with that said, how much better would the offense have been with JoJo instead of Sam Brown? Either way, he's the 4th or 5th option in that offense, right?
I'm just saying I think, I'm a visionary. I think long term, but what I'm saying, you would have been getting him ready for next year now. So now you feel a lot more comfortable saying, hey, I got a kid coming back who's got about 300, 400 yards this year. I feel good about him. I know where he is. I'm set with that position. I'm set at the X or the Y, wherever you're going to be putting him. Now I just got to go fill these other spots. You can't say that now.
He definitely could have played more than he did. No question.
Should have. I mean, Sam Brown was a waste of time. Isaiah Horton should have played over Sam Brown most of the year. Like, coaches see these guys. This is what I can't wrap my head around. Coaches see these guys play. And I'm sitting on a stupid show. I'm not watching them practice. We're not allowed to practice. And I'm saying, like, Isaiah Horton looks in games like he's better than Sam Brown. And, like, why do I see these things and in a game and the coaches don't act on it? I can't wrap my head around it other than the fact that Sam Brown, yes, of course, who's getting paid more money should play automatically is ridiculous. And then it's just the experience factor. Like, Sam Brown's a veteran. Isaiah Horton hasn't been playing a lot. Like, that, it always comes back to that. It always comes back to that, it seems like, with these coaches. And not just Mario. The guy who's played more years, the guy who has more reps, the guy who's more reliable, the guy who's slower, clumsier, drops passes. That's the guy we want, you know? I can't wrap my head around it.
I think Horton's going to regret that move, though. There's a lot going on over there now.
It's got Colby Young vibes to it a little bit. Yeah, he's going to disappear over there, I think, a little bit.
I think so, man. I think so. I think they're going to become a running team. They're going to focus on.
He should have come back here. He would have been probably WR1 next year.
He would have been the man.
Well, it came down to It came down to money and and also a little bit. I don't think that the quarterback situation maybe is as dreamy for him as it maybe appears to some others. I guess I don't know. Before
I leave, I kind of want y'all thoughts on that. Like, I know y'all can't spill the beans because I know y'all got some inside stuff, and I know you can't spill them right now. But do you feel confident? Just tell me if you feel confident that we're going to be okay landing somebody from a quarterback standpoint.
I mean, I'll start. I'll feel confident when they get it. Like, I know they're working hard at it, but I don't see where the difference makers are out there this year. There's no Will Howard. There's no Cam Ward. I would have liked if the Washington State kid had come here, but like that's the only one I've seen that moves the needle for me.
Yeah.
If Ewers goes in the portal and they're able to get him, I think he would be a nice Band-Aid for next year, for sure. You're gonna have to spend big time bucks for him, but you almost have to in that situation. And but I don't know that there's going to be this great fix. I don't know that that's there. So the best thing they can do is make the rest of the offense as good as they can make it, and then find a guy that can manage the game. And I have not given up on Emory Williams in that regard. I get how bad he looked in that bowl game. I've seen him look a lot better. Granted, it's against our defense. I will put that asterisk on it. But he's got a big mental hurdle that he has to overcome here going into spring practice. I mean, that had to be a devastating experience. That had to destroy his confidence at every level, not just in himself, but seeing that his offensive coordinator, the way he called that game and how different it was from the first half, maybe doesn't have the level of confidence in him that might have been believed going into that game. And I think Shannon Dawson's going to have to rehabilitate that with Emory Williams. But there's time. They got a whole spring practice ahead of them, a whole off season. I hope Emory's a great kid. We know him very well, and hopefully he can bounce back from that. I do not think it'll be easy. So it's going to be interesting.
And I'll just add real quick that I don't, I know people like Gronowski. People think the USC guy's going in the portal. Gronowski's a lower level guy, dual threat. Not to me, he's not great. He's good. He'd compete with Emory Williams, right? And one of them will start, but it's not going to be obvious who should start. If you're not bringing in a quarterback right now where it's obvious he's the starter, right? Cam Ward came in, oh yeah, he's the starter. Everyone knew it, right? Because he's that good, right? If they're not bringing a guy in this portal window who's that good, and they're just bringing a guy to compete with Emory Williams to start in spring practice, that's not for me, man. I don't want to spend $1.5 million because the market right now is ridiculous for a guy who's going to compete with Emory Williams. I'd rather wait till the second portal window and do what everyone else does and find somebody who's on another team and get him to go in the portal and grab that guy, because this is not just fun and games, right? I know everyone wants the guy to practice for 15 practices in the spring, but if the right guy's not there, if that difference-making quarterback is not there, well, guess what? There's going to be less competition for quarterbacks in the second window, right? Because a lot of teams have already invested all this money in their quarterbacks, the ones who wanted quarterbacks. The top teams with all the money have already paid their $6 million, their $3 million, their $2 million, right? They're not taking anyone else that goes in the portal. So you have a real chance in that second portal window to grab someone. And yeah, they miss spring practice, boo-hoo-hoo. If they're that freaking good, you've got, April, May, June, July, August. You got a little bit of time to get that guy working with the rest of the team. And he could bring in some more portal talent in that second portal window, right? Because right now, where we're sitting here today, I don't see a ton of guys that are picking Miami out of the portal, other than maybe Branch at receiver. I don't see anyone else out there that's a difference maker other than Branch that Miami might get right now, period. So I'm
waiting. You don't think it's going to get the USC guys?
Branch is the USC guy, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But other than Branch, Zechariah Branch, other than him, I'm saving my freaking money. It's like if you go to the grocery store and you want milk and all they got is coconut water, I'm waiting until they get the milk in. I don't want to drink coconut water.
Well, you still want Xavier Lucas if he goes in the portal.
Yeah, but he can't go in the portal anymore.
They'll figure it out. That won't hold up. Wisconsin can't keep him out of the portal.
He has to wait to the second window. That's the rule.
Maybe.
I don't see a way around it.
Maybe, unless he gets a legal ruling. We'll see. All right, T-Dog.
All right, guys.
Cheers, my man. One more. Give me one more.
I'm all out. Here.
Oh, man. Making me drink alone.
I had two already.
All right, man. Hey, thank you for being part of the show.
All right, fellas. Y'all hold it down, man. See y'all on the board.
Happy New Year.
We'll see you on the message boards and in August.
No doubt. Fat Cooter lives.
All right, man. Take care. All right, let's go to since Kane's cat, he's been dying to be on the show with Matt. We got to go to him next. What's up, Kane's cat?
Gentlemen, my biggest gripe right now with the team is I think you guys are also upset with it. You just don't want to say his name. I just want to know, when are we going to replace Dennis Smith? That's my biggest.
Replace who?
Dennis
Smith.
Dennis the Menace.
My opinion, he's the guy that makes the donors overpay for players to make up for his mistakes, in my opinion.
You're not going to find many people that are going to down talk Dennis Smith. But listen, everyone can have their own opinions. Dennis works his ass off. I'll tell you that. Whether you think he's good or bad, you can't argue with how hard that dude works. So I'm never going to down talk a guy that works just like Mario. I'll never down talk. I'll down talk his decisions, but I'll never down talk Mario or Dennis Smith just because the amount of hours those dudes put in. You can't be like, oh, they should go. I don't know anyone that's going to work any harder than those guys trying to make this thing right.
There's too much on his plate.
But
there's too much on his plate.
They can be working hard, but they're not working smart.
Yeah, well, that's possible. I can understand. Listen, when you have 3 seasons that they've had and the way the third season ended, there's plenty of blame to go around, including for Dennis Smith, of course, because he's taken a large chunk of the recruiting responsibilities and they're trying to get guys and all this other stuff, right?
He's the general manager, basically. He's the first point of contact with the
kid. Correct. So he should
scouting the players. In my opinion,
yes, he can have the same amount of criticism as Mario. I don't disagree with that. But what I'm saying is when you say, oh, when are they getting rid of the guy? You're not going to bring in a guy that works harder than him to try and get the program right. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You know,
Listen, he does the truth of it is he does an enormous amount for the program. He works extremely hard. He has way too much on his plate. That's what to me needs to be fixed. Okay. They need to get an NFL scouting department in that business so that Dennis Smith isn't having to be that guy. And
we had that guy, Gary. That's the problem. I mean, but we gave the reins to Dennis Smith. That's the biggest point I have.
No, Dennis is not the VP. Dennis is not the CEO. Dennis is not the talent evaluator. Dennis is the guy who goes out and gets the guys who he's told to go get. Like, we want this guy. Go get him, Dennis. And
but he also makes a lot of the decisions.
Dennis is not evaluating film and saying, "Here's 8 guys that I'm going to try to get for you, Mario, because I know they're great." Dennis is doing the work. And
who's the one scouting the players? Because what's his role? His role is general
Mario,
manager.
believe it or not. Mario and his coaches.
Mario
and his coaches. The position coaches. 100%.
That's the area they need to improve.
That makes me even more upset then, because I truly thought it was Dennis doing all the work. But if it's Mario and the coaches, then they deserve even more blame. Because
Dennis Smith is not a position coach. But they had Alonzo Highsmith, who was supposed to be in that role of overseer, right? Every position coach was supposed to go to Alonzo. Hey, what do you think of this guy? Hey, I want to offer this guy. And Alonzo was supposed to be that guy.
And Alonzo should have gone and hired the 4 best scouts that he could find that would come here.
Right.
And if you had to pay them double what they were making in the NFL, I don't care. You're spending $30 million on players. Like, it's worth spending $1 million on a scouting department.
I mean, Gary,
you have kick-ass evaluating talent on the planet, huh?
Look at what Vanderbilt did with hiring Barton Simmons. Why doesn't you? I mean, you don't have to go hire Andrew Ivins. I mean, obviously he's brand new in the game.
No, we definitely don't need to hire Andrew Ivins. But I'm not talking about hiring guys from On3 and I'm talking about going to the National Football League, Eric. I'm talking about going to the National Football League.
But these scouting guys, in reality, they're the ones that see the players. You guys, you truthfully see the players more than Dennis Smith. You do.
But that's not. I understand. I agree. But that's not what our profession is. Okay. And
I know that.
And I'm talking about guys that have made a living for many, many years evaluating talent for the National Football League that can project a young player 2-3 years down the road and can cut down on what Greg was grilling Matt about, the misses. Okay. If you could cut your misses in half, you're going to be a national championship contender.
Because, I mean, it's the truth. Because in the cornerbacks right now we're recruiting 3 corners that are going to basically be sophomores that they really didn't do much at their old stops. And we're going to overpay them $300, $400K when we could have got a guy like Xavier Lucas last year for $100K. And then now we have to overpay him for our mistake of not taking him and doing bad evaluations.
I mean, if your point is there are mistakes and bad evaluations, yes, there certainly are. But if you want to, but you're misplacing the blame is all I'm saying. You know, at the end of the day, yes, it comes back to a system that Mario Cristobal's built that is not working, right?
100%.
For 3 years, he's won 5, 7, and 10 games. Which, if you say on face value, that's what happened, you'd be like, okay, he got a bad team. He inherited from Manny, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we all see that he's not getting the recruits and developing the recruits, and those are his guys. What he's doing is he's getting portal guys. And you can understand it the first couple of years. Okay, so Manny missed. He has to fill in the holes with portal guys. But the fact that he's still going to take 15 or 20 portal guys this cycle, the fact that he started half his team last year in year 3 that were portal guys that he didn't recruit and didn't take, and that they didn't work out, right? Because the defensive portal guys he took were not good enough. The defense was awful, one of the worst I can remember. So I understand your point. But to me, the system that has been set up is to blame, not Dennis Smith or an individual. Mario needed to rely, and I touched on this earlier, on a Alonzo Highsmith, on a this guy, on a that guy. He doesn't like to do it. He wants to be hands-on himself. He wants to make those decisions himself. Be the guy. The buck stops with me. I'm making these decisions. And I think he needs to let that go and bring in the next Alonzo Highsmith and just let that guy do his job. And I know he'll let the new defense coordinator do his job because he doesn't know defense, Mario, right? But, you know, at the same time, like, there needs to be a different system put in place. And if Mario doesn't recognize that, we're just going to be stuck in this rut again.
Same thing.
Mario's smart enough to know the mistakes. I mean, he's very good at recognizing the problems and fixing them. And fully anticipate him to bring in a new Alonzo Highsmith or do some sort of different department or something. Do something differently, because he certainly will recognize that the way it's working right now, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're getting the same result, right? He has to do something different, period.
I mean, a guy that I feel like they should be taking more of, like we lost an Isaiah Thomas today. That's his name, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he got injured his senior year, but before that he was a good player and a projectable player. I feel like we should be taking more guys like that. You take more chances on guys like that, and if they hit, they hit. Or worst case, like Matt says, they don't hit, you cut them. And then you don't have to overpay in the portal for some of these spots.
You got to get out of this having to cut all these guys. Like, they're
That's
not making bad decisions. They're cutting who they need to cut. But you got to do a better job of evaluating talent, so you're not bringing guys in that you have to cut every year.
No, but if you bring in 10 guys that are projectable and 3 hit, that's great. You just cut the other 7, especially at a spot like corner
all the time, though.
But I mean, right now we're about to land 2. Right now we're landing 3 sophomore corners that really didn't do anything at mid-major levels, besides the guy Brantley, when that's a guy from Venice High School that we could have took as a project and developed him.
And Brantley's got an injury too. Brantley's hopefully he'll be back full go.
That's mainly my thing. Why aren't we taking these projects and then developing them? If they don't develop, that's fine. You can just cut them after 1 year. Like, that's what the portal's for. Every year, like you said, we're building a roster every single year. There's no more program building. You cut the guys. If they're not good enough, you cut them. If they're good, you keep them. And then we don't have to
pay the NFL, man. This is the NFL.
Yeah, it's the NFL. Well, that's the problem. Mario's success that he's had in the past and the blueprint he's had in the past has always been based on great recruiting. Great recruiting. Fine. You get the best players. They're with you for 4 or 5 years. You have great teams. But we don't know yet if he's going to be good in this system. That's the problem. Like, Miami paid the guy a fortune to come here based on a culture and a system that he had proven he's really good at that no longer exists. And so we're still waiting to see if it's really going to work here the way he's trying to do it. And the answer, there's no answer yet. There's no yes, it worked, no, it didn't work. Next year we will know. If next year is a step backwards, it's a failed experiment, and I don't know what you do at that point.
I don't know if it will be truly a failed experiment. It won't be a failed experiment until he does what we say, get the scouting department. That's when we'll really find out. Because, I mean, to be good, you have to have good players. Regardless of who your coach is, you have to have good players.
That's true.
If you have good players, then it makes up for the mistakes of the coaches. That's mainly my thing. One more thing, Matt, we're only like 17 days. Hopefully you show up from baseball. I mean, hopefully it's a good team. I'm hoping, I'm praying.
Well, I will tell you. I will tell you this.
We're going to be good. I think we're going to be decent.
I will tell you this. I'm just going to tell you this flat out. Okay. I was with a former UM baseball player at a New Year's Eve party. Yes, I actually go out once in a while. Gary lets me out very rarely. He's not optimistic. You know, he still is very tight with all the former players, everything. He's not optimistic about this team. He said straight up some stuff that bothered me, you know, about coaching culture, work ethic.
I've heard some stuff.
And it's troubling. I don't, you know, he doesn't think this is going to work out. He saw the Gino DiMari disaster coming, and he thinks there'll be a new coach after this year. That's what he thinks is going to happen. So, you know,
if I can chime in, I went to the baseball forum where JD spoke for like a couple hours. I mean, I believe in his vision. It truthfully does have to work this year. We have to at least make the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I love JD to death. And I think he had some goodwill built up in the beginning, but these former players have not apparently been welcomed back tremendously well by JD. And the feeling out there right now is that this is a program in disarray. You know, JD's painting it as, oh, you know, we've revamped the whole roster. We have all these new guys that are going to be great. On the flip side of that, I'm not sure these new guys will be. I've been out
to a lot of the practices. I mean, I believe in the hitters, and I mean I pay attention.
Well, they have two good returning hitters, right? The entire pitching staff's gone except for Walters is going to be a starter. That's about the only guy who's back.
The pitching staff is truthfully, it's not a concern. I mean, it's just a lot of guys that have never really started. I think we have a lot of good
people don't want to hear about baseball right now, but I'm just telling you, I don't think it's going to be a great season. I think it's going to be a problem, but we'll see.
Okay.
All right, Canes Cat, thanks for being part of the show, man. We'll see you next time. He loves his baseball, man.
He does. I hate to tell him that. I don't think it's going to be real good. He's looked very disappointed. It was like, I don't know. It was like telling your dog that you're out of dog treats. He looked he had his tail was between his legs.
Elijah says, give Clint Hurt a blank check and ask him to retain D-Nick and Jay Taylor. It's a hell of an idea to me. I wrote the story on Clint Hurt the other day. I think he'd be great for this job. I just don't know whether he will make himself available to Mario. He's been in the league 11 years. He's very well regarded up there. Probably can get another coordinator job in the NFL. I don't know if he can be talked into coming back here, but obviously would be a great addition. And Matt, J. Crew, this is an interesting subject we haven't touched on yet tonight. Why did Mario allow all those guys to only play half of football? Should have told them either suit up for the entire game or don't suit up at all. Cam Ward has taken an enormous amount of criticism. He said all year long, very consistently, it was never about awards, but his only intention was to break the record. I don't think that is an unfair statement, which is given substantiation by the fact that he did come out of the game at halftime. I don't know that it's fair to call him a coward. I don't know if I like the choice of words, but your thoughts on that whole situation.
I mean, these players, my understanding is that if they are willing to play in the game, they get paid, right? They're paid not, I don't think per game, but per month, and you have to play in the games of that month if you're healthy, right? So I don't remember how much Cam Ward got. What did he get? 150 grand to play a half of football or whatever. But if he's willing to play, you're paying him to play anyway. I mean, I don't know why Mario Cristobal would say, "Oh, we're not going to play you." What bothers me a little bit is, and I said it on the Good Morning Show. I know people didn't like it, but it's just how I feel. I had heard before the game from somebody who would know this that he was playing because he wanted to break a record, right? I didn't even know what the record was. I guess it was the all-time. At the time, I didn't know when this person told me, but I guess the very minor record, just the all-time touchdowns in the history of football record, right, for a quarterback, but over their career. But if I'm Mario, and if you're having an honest conversation with your player, and if Cam Ward wants that award, fine. But I know Cam Ward constantly was telling us, I don't care about awards, I don't care about this stuff, whatever. Obviously, he cares. But if that's the case, and if I'm the coach, which obviously there's reasons I'm not the coach, mainly because I'm mentally deranged. But aside from that, if my guy wants to break a record and he had such a great year, 100%, I'm like, you've earned it, man. Go out there, break the record, then we're going to pull you out and we're going to see the younger guys play because we need to get ready for next year. That's what I would have said. But Mario wanted to win the bowl game. He wanted to win the bowl game with guys who are not going to be here when it matters in 2025. And he lost the bowl game. So not only did he not see the players he needed to see in 2025, but he lost. So it's like everything was bad. There was nothing good about the bowl game. That's what bothers me the most. Like if they'd won the bowl game with the guys who played all year, I wouldn't really have had that much of a problem with it. I'd be like, all right, you know what? 11 wins. They haven't done that since 2003. I get it. I get it. Even if Cam Ward had gone out at halftime and they still won the game, I don't think there would have been the same outcry, right? It would have been like, okay, we got to see Emory Williams. Like, let's say Shamar Kirk miraculously caught the ball that stuck in his face. Let's say it just stuck in his face mask and stayed there, and he scored that touchdown. Miami wins the game, right? Because, Emory threw it high. Xavier Restrepo catches it. If that ball's caught, they win the game running the ball the last two drives, and everyone walks home happy or drives home happy or whatever the hell it is. That didn't happen. And because of that one Shamar Kirk play where the pass was a little bit high because Jalen Rivers' head was in the way, and then Emory threw it probably too hard, and Shamar couldn't get his hands up fast enough, whatever. Because of that one play, right, the entire Miami Nation is in disarray because if that ball had been caught, remember, the final drive isn't Emory Williams almost throwing 3 interceptions, throwing 2 almost interceptions, and throwing an actual third interception. That final drive is just run the ball again. And we never would have seen Emory throw the ball poorly. And fans would be like, okay, you know what? They just wanted to win the game, and we'll see Emory, what he can do in the spring. And this never would even be a conversation. So the way it went down in that bowl game, because
in fairness, they had run the ball 8 straight times.
Because Cam Ward came out, because Shamar Kirk had a ball bounce off his head, because of those things, like that is why we're at the perception we're at. And I think that's why there's legitimate anger against Cam Ward, because they definitely win the game with Cam Ward in the game. Like they could not stop Cam Ward. Okay. So Cam Ward cost Mario Cristobal the bowl game that Mario Cristobal wanted. Cam Ward is the reason why Emory Williams looks so bad, right? Because at the end of the day, if Cam Ward had played, Emory wouldn't look so bad. He wouldn't have played. So there's multiple reasons why Cam Ward really screwed Mario and screwed Miami. And you know what? Mario probably deserves it because Mario agreed to this half-baked plan. I don't understand why. I guess because he wanted to win the bowl game. And the look after the game when Mario said he wouldn't talk about it.
What was the score of that game?
Discussions with Cam are private. I mean, the whole look of it was so bad.
What would the score of that game been had Cam Ward not played the first half?
Oh, they would have got killed, I think. Yeah, but we don't know because
that's why Mario.
We don't know because Emory. Here's the truth. Here's the truth. They didn't know Cam was playing half the game for quite a bit of the bowl practices. If Emory's taken every first team rep of every bowl team practice, if he's playing with a healthy Elijah Arroyo who got a little banged up for the entire first half, playing with Jacoby George the whole first half, playing with Damian Martinez the whole first half, right, who got banged up in the second half. Like maybe the offense looks different. Maybe if he did that, they would have called actual real plays for him in the game instead of just the final drive of desperation stuff. So I don't know that they would have got killed. My guess is, based on what I saw, they would have, but maybe they wouldn't have. We will never know because Cam Ward sort of usurped all the energy out of the bowl game when he left. And apparently in a lot of the practices too, where Emory was not getting first team reps for a lot of these practices.
But Mario had to go along with the plan. But now we've got what Elijah here is bringing up to deal with, and that's the Shannon Dawson, Emory Williams dynamic. And, how do they move forward, Matt? What do you think? Like, the first thing that is going to have to be rehabilitated is that Shannon Dawson is going to have to convince Emory, I really do have the confidence in you that I always said I have, even though it didn't show up in the heat of the battle in Orlando. Before they get to anything in spring practice, I would think that the mental state of Emory Williams has to be dealt with.
I think this is overblown. From what I understand, a lot of the issues that Emory dealt with and why he was constantly staring, at a certain receiver and then not coming off them. These receivers that they had in the game, a lot of second teamers at that point, right? Even some third teamers, they were not consistently running correct routes from what I was told. And, is that Shannon Dawson's fault or is that just sort of the fault of what happened with players opting out, at halftime or just not playing much in the second half that normally would be playing, right? No Xavier Restrepo, and some of these other guys who just weren't really playing that much in the second half anymore. So I don't know that there's anger between Emory Williams and Shannon Dawson. Emory Williams is not a guy who usually gets angry. He just, from what I understand, he just wants to get better and he just wants to do well and he's a pleaser. He's not one of these, fiery guys who's going to start screaming at Shannon Dawson in the meeting room, like, how you made me look so stupid, or something like that. Like Emory just wants to get better. He's a hard worker. And Shannon Dawson, he's not like the previous offense coordinator who we will not name. He's much more level-headed. He's not yelling in the meeting rooms like happened previous to that. And he's a teacher. These coaches at the end of the day are teachers, right? And we've all had teachers. Some of them are real jerks. Most of them are pretty nice, right? And Shannon Dawson's a pretty nice teacher. And Emory is a pretty nice student. And I don't think there's anything to that there's bad blood between them now or anything like that. They both are pulling in the same direction is my understanding. And the question now is, will Emory be the starter or not? Because if he's not the starter coming out of spring ball, and if they seem pretty sure he's not going to be, I would not be at all surprised if he's gone, because all these quarterbacks, whether you people want to believe it or not, have other teams that want them. Even Emory right now, I'm sure, has other teams that would take him in a heartbeat. As a developmental guy, not to start right away, but as a guy who could start the next year or whatever it may be. So they need to keep Emory happy. They're not trying to make him mad or anything like that. It was just a bad situation on the bowl game.
All right, Matt, we're going to let you go in a minute, but BK Hurricane has been waiting very patiently to join this fray. And BK, welcome back to CaneSport Live. What you got for us tonight?
What's up, Gary? What's up, Matt?
What's up?
I don't know if you remember, but the last time we were on, I said I called Cam Ward the gift and the curse. I was right.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was 100% right. I don't know if you remember that, Gary. I called him a gift and a curse.
I remember, and you were spot on.
The gift was he gave us a decent season. He broke a lot of records.
Entertained the hell out of us.
He entertained the hell out of the country.
Yeah.
Yep.
He entertained the hell out of the country. But the curse was Cam Ward was the entire Miami Hurricanes 2024 football team.
Yes.
Period. That's it. Cam Ward covered up so many deficiencies and so many holes on this team.
And there were times when they were trying to run the ball more when he switched to passing plays.
Gift and a curse.
And at Georgia Tech and at Syracuse, where you lost, you might have benefited from running the ball a little bit more.
You might have, but then at the same time too, you look at Cam Ward, the coaches. I got to put that on the coaches. They pretty much gave him the autonomy to do that, and he did it.
They had to,
and he did it.
If you're gonna go with him and bring him into this situation and make him the face of the team and the offense, and you were gonna have the success that he was having, you had to go all in, man, and live with the result.
And live with the result. They went all in on Cam Ward, but the issue is, as we all know, was the defense. And I don't think anybody on that defensive staff is exempt from getting a pink slip. Whether it's Jason Taylor, D. Nick, the defensive line regressed, the linebackers regressed, the defensive backs were just horrible. So no one is safe. Like, Mario has to move fast now. He can't be the old Mario where he's going to take his time and pick the right guy. It hasn't worked. It's never worked. So he has to pick a guy, and that guy has to bring in his own coaching staff. No more, I'm going to hire the position coaches and then hire a defensive coordinator. It's not going to work. It's absolutely not going to work. And the one thing that I'm afraid of is that we're going to have an awesome defense next year, top 10, and our offense is also going to be exposed from what Cam Ward was hiding, that there was no wide receiver development on this team. None.
There was not.
There was no tight end development on this team. Outside of Arroyo and Cam McCormick, there was no one. We had
Riley Williams was plenty good.
Riley Williams,
but he just didn't get a lot of opportunity.
Williams should have been the second tight end, period. What about the Carver kid? What's going on with him? What is he just holding up on roster space?
Yeah, I don't know for how much longer.
There was no development across the board. People like to, I'm pretty sure we've all seen the Notre Dame game tonight. And the difference is that, what's Notre Dame's coach? I forgot his name. He hit home runs. Marcus Freeman hit home runs on both coordinators.
Yes.
Home runs on both coordinators.
It's a lot, man.
No one on. Not only can they call up a play, but I've never seen a Notre Dame team this fast. Period. Notre Dame was beating Georgia to the edges tonight.
Over and over and over again.
Over and over again. They were flying to the football on defense. Not only are they great coordinators, they're great developers, something that Miami doesn't have. Everyone keeps talking about Mario this, Mario that. Mario is doing an amazing job as a recruiter, but that's not our issue. Our issue is the development. I'm seeing all these guys like Vincent Shavers and the kid from Wisconsin. They wouldn't even be thought about if we would have developed the guys that we chose over them. But we didn't develop them. We didn't develop Cyrus Moss. We didn't develop Jaden Wayne. We didn't develop a lot of guys that we let, that decided to leave. We didn't develop all those safeties that we took 2-3 years prior. They all busted out. But then we realized it wasn't them. It was the coaches. It was the development. It was a development. I don't care if you're a 4-star kid coming out of Miami. I don't care. You got to be able to get something out of that kid. Something. You got to get something. And we got nothing out of these kids. We didn't develop them. You mean to tell me one running back shifts on the offense and everybody loses their mind? Nobody knows what to do. That's development. That's development. They should have beat that into the kids' heads all year. I'm not sure if they did that. I'm not a coach. I'm not an insider. I don't know what was going on, but that's all development. We have a serious issue, and it's not recruiting, and it's personnel staff. That's our biggest issue. The kids are going to be the kids, but we need somebody to come in and teach these kids. These kids are not learning. They're not being taught very well at all. Cam Ward, Shannon Dawson taught Cam Ward absolutely nothing. This team put Cam Ward behind the best offensive line in the country, and Cam Ward did what Cam Ward did.
Yeah, but that's not fair.
He did what he did at Washington, and they gave him a running game. Cam Ward didn't.
Cam Ward was a much better quarterback this year at Miami than he was at Washington State, and you can't just say
he had a running game and an offensive line.
Credit. You can't say Shannon Dawson gets no credit.
Because he had a running game and an offensive line. What I saw this year from Cam Ward was what I saw the previous year at Washington, except for the fact that he had a running game and an offensive line. Shannon Dawson did not change who Cam Ward was. That's who Cam Ward is. Cam Ward put up great numbers on a crappy team with a crappy offensive line, with a halfway decent running game at Washington. So now what, you're going to put him against an NFL projected offensive line with NFL projected running backs? What do you think he's going to look like? You're going to see the true Cam Ward, and that's what we saw. We have a big issue with our coordinators and our coaching, a major issue. And it's all going to be exposed next year if Mario doesn't hit an absolute home run at defensive coordinator. And not only that, hit a home run on finding a decent quarterback out of the portal, because I watched every playoff game. I didn't see one statue of a quarterback playing. I seen guys who were able to make plays with their legs, create plays, get yards, and then still hit the ball downfield. Emory Ward is not that kid. This is a new age of college football. You can't have statues standing back there and winging the ball around.
That's a good idea. Change his last name to Ward. Emory Ward. I like that idea, BK. You said Emory Ward.
I'm sorry. Emory Williams. Emory Williams.
I think it's a great idea.
Well,
put Ward on the back of his jersey.
Hopefully, if he could change his name and get half of Cam Ward's production, I'll take it.
Exactly. Listen, look, I mean, there's something to what you said. They do need to hire a great defense coordinator. The jury, to me, is still out a bit on Shannon Dawson. It's weird to say for the top offense in the country, but to me, it was Cam Ward's offense, I think is what you're basically saying. I don't agree with that at all. I think a stationary quarterback would not have made the plays Cam Ward made. I mean, think about all those highlight plays Cam Ward made when he'd roll out of the pocket and just the scramble drill, right? Which wasn't coached, by the way. They just said to the receiver, just try to find a spot in the zone while he's scrambling. Just try to get open. It was, backyard football. That's not running an offense. Now, Shannon Dawson had prior success at Houston. There's no doubt about it. But he had a guy named Toon who wound up an NFL quarterback with the Cardinals. He had the guy who's at Houston, right? The slot guy. I mean, he had NFL talent at Houston against bad opponents, right? In the AAC or whatever they were back then. So, you could make the argument that, well, was it his system or were his players so great? And this year for Shannon, well, was his system so great or was Cam Ward so great? So that's why, to me, the jury's still out a little bit on Shannon Dawson. I think next year we're going to get a much better idea because you see all these offensive guys that left. And I don't see a great quarterback right now that's just sitting there waiting to come to Miami. So he's going to have to really work his magic next year. And I understand why you think the offense could be worse next year and the defense could be better, because the defense does have enough players. That's what's crazy. They had good players this year on defense. It wasn't the players. Like, to me, it wasn't the players. It was that Akeem Messidor didn't want to play defensive tackle. You know what? Should he have tried more and maybe tried to make something of it at tackle? Probably, but he was so much better at the end of the year. Ruben Bain was banged up most of the year, and however they kept using him was totally ineffective. The way that they were rushing him was totally ineffective. Dropping these guys into coverage, seeing Messidor in coverage is idiotic. Lining up a safety against a 4-4 receiver in coverage is idiotic. Like, just the stuff they did that created bust was dumb. The guys never seemed to understand where to be. But as actual athletes, as actual players, you can't tell me that Ruben Bain, Akeem Messidor, Simeon Barrow, Francisco Mauanoa, Wesley Bastainth, even Mish Powell and even maybe Darryl Porter. You can't tell me those guys are terrible athletes and terrible players because they'd all had previously good seasons. So, I think there's enough there, even though a lot of those guys are gone, there's enough on this team on defense to be a top half defense in the ACC, and maybe that's all you need next year to be a playoff team.
Well, listen, you had a great formula at the beginning of the year. I mean, at the beginning of the show. We don't know what the other teams are going to look like. Everybody's saying, well, next year is going to be a tough schedule. Next year is going to be a tough schedule. Notre Dame is losing a quarterback.
We don't know what we're going to look like.
Right. Nobody knows what everybody's going to go into the ACC looking totally different. Syracuse, different. They need a quarterback. Like, everybody needs a quarterback. Everybody needs something. And that's why it's extremely important that we hit on D coordinator and get some teachers in here, because Mario is going to do what Mario does. He's going to recruit the best players in the country. He needs teachers to develop these kids. Mario can't do it all. I have no issue with Mario recruiting the entire country. None at all. He's going to get who he wants. But when they step foot in this program, we need somebody to rein these kids in, to sit them down, say, hey, this is what we're doing, to teach these kids. And that's where the deficiencies are, not in the recruiting. We'll get a top 10 recruiting class next year. I have all the faith in the world we're going to have a top 10 recruiting class next year. But how many of those kids are we going to put under the wing, like they like to say, and develop them? We don't have any developers on the staff. I mean, I didn't mean to go too long, but yeah,
Yeah, right. We got a bunch of guys we got to get on. I got to get Matt out of here. So thank you so much for being part of the show. This entire
Happy New Year's, Matt. Happy New Year's, Gary.
Happy New Year.
And we'll see you on the message boards, and we'll see you again on this show in August.
All right, I'll be ready.
All right, Matt. Parting thoughts before we let you go and we bring in the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner.
I'm just hoping that Greg will no longer be watching the show in August when we come back. Please, I don't ask for much. That's all I ask for. No Greg in August harassing me. And somehow Greg remembers every little thing I've said from the age of 8. He'll be like, when you were 12 years old, you told your English teacher that someday the Miami Hurricanes would win their 6th national title, and they only have 5. They only have 5.
He's got one of those dry erase boards that is like a mouse pad. I'm telling you, he takes notes.
No, but listen, I mean, I know I'm the eternal pessimist, right? Because as I always say, it's easier to be a pessimist and then be pleasantly surprised than to constantly think things are going to be great and they're terrible. That makes you very depressed. But I do, in my heart of hearts, I don't have a heart, but if I did have a heart, in my heart of hearts, I would believe that the defense will be a lot better next year and the offense will be worse. Like, that's what I believe. The question is, what degree are they going to be in that direction, right? Because if the defense can be quite a bit better and the offense is just a little bit worse, this is a playoff team. And for fans to sit here and say
a lot worse, they have a lot of pieces back.
And for fans to sit here and say that they know the answer right now and the team's not going to be a national title contender, not going to be in the playoffs, going to win 6-7 games, nobody knows right now. Nobody even knows what the final pickups are going to be. The second portal window hasn't even been close to opened yet. The spring practice hasn't begun yet. The Miami quarterback has not been hired yet, because that's what you do now. You hire a quarterback, right? You do the pay-for-play thing. By the way, they should go back and they should take away, they should reward Miami its past victories that were taken away, whatever bowl appearances were taken away, TV that was taken away, because pay-for-play is legal. Miami should sue the NCAA for having penalized them for pay-for-play. Miami was just ahead of the curve. Miami saw what was coming down the road. Pay-for-play was genius. The NCAA should have been like, oh my God, why don't we think of this, Miami? Pay-for-play. This is the system we need, because that's what we have now. And we don't know yet who Miami's paying to play next year. So until then, just be optimistic.
All right, Matt. Well, thanks for being part of this show the entire year. And I'm sure we'll continue to see you on Good Morning CaneSport.
Okay.
For better or for worse, I know.
For worse. All
from
right,
your
bye.
standpoint. Matt doesn't like those 5:30 a.m. wake-up calls that I make him get. But now we're going to switch over to the voice of the fan, Bruce Warner. I know you've been storing up your thoughts on all these different subjects, so I'm just going to give you the floor for a moment, and then we're going to go back to our viewers. Put your mic on, Bruce.
How about now?
There you go.
All right. So ask me some questions. This is an hour and 35 minutes I'm sitting here. You expect me to remember what everybody talked about?
Just give us your general thoughts, and then it'll come to your head because we got other guys.
I mean, if we're going to the bowl game and we're talking about Ward, I think the issue really for a lot of fans is they said he was playing. I never heard anything about half the game, a quarter of the game. So as far as I'm concerned, that was dead wrong. Because people pay thousands of dollars to go to Orlando, to get hotels, to buy tickets, bring their families, go out to restaurants, and expect this kid to play. And they show up and they got their pants pulled down at halftime. That's wrong. I don't care if you blame him, you blame Mario. I don't care who you blame. I don't care how much money he got. I'm looking at it from the fans' point of view. We got screwed. And then at the end of the game, he's like, why can't he go back and play the last series? We probably would have gotten a field goal and won the damn game. But to me, that was a fraud on the fans. That's how I look at it. They never should. Either you play. Somebody said either you play or you don't play. But don't do something like that. You know, you announce you're going to play. Everybody got excited for what? For half of a game? I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on my thoughts.
No, I thought it was a bad look, and Mario got caught, and then he didn't handle it the best that he could after the game, and it became a whole national topic of conversation.
Not to mention the fight on the sidelines, which
wasn't good for anybody. Yeah, the fight on the sideline was a very bad deal too. I don't know what those two idiots were doing. Probably should have been broken up a little quicker than it was, quite frankly. But hey. Crap happens in the heat of the battle.
Yeah, you know, when I think about the Cam Ward thing, look, I think most of these people are right. Cam Ward was the team. Without him, who knows what would have happened. Look, he was spectacular in the Cal game in the second half. We lost 3. You could have lost 3 or 4 more. The defense was abysmal. And as I said, every week this season, how on earth does this defense practice against the most prolific offense in the nation and not get any better? What the hell are these coaches watching? Or these guys making plays in practice and they go to the game and they lay an egg? That can't be either.
It's unbelievable if you look at it from that. Yeah, and that's why Lance Guidry got fired. All right, let's go to Schmira 55. Let's see what he's got to say. What's up, Schmira?
Hey, what's up, Gary? How you doing?
Doing good, man. What you got for us?
Man, I haven't been on all year. I stayed up late handicapping some horses here. So let's go over to this debacle we have to talk about. I mean, watching the Florida game, I just thought that we were going to be in for an amazing season. And just the speed on defense, forget about Cam Ward, but just about the speed, just Barron. What happened to that guy? The guy looked like a top 5 pick in the draft at the Florida game and couldn't even... I mean, what did he play? 4 snaps in the Syracuse game? I mean, completely went downhill. I think the beginning of the end was the South Florida game. If you remember, they had a little slot receiver. They never made one adjustment on the kid the whole game. I think he had 12 catches. And basically, he's a good player, but I mean, they made this guy look like Wes Welker.
It showed us what was to come.
I mean, as the season was going on, they were just holding on by a thread. And it was just... not, if it was when the whole thing was just going to collapse. Because, I mean, even you could give them a little bit of an excuse for the Georgia Tech game, even though they played a quarterback that couldn't throw a downfield pass, which is basically unbelievable. I don't remember ever seeing that in a college football game.
They had 2 quarterbacks in that game, Schmeier. But you know what? They played Georgia Tech the year before, and Georgia Tech stifled our offense. What did they learn from that? They didn't learn a damn thing. They still look like crap.
But, so I was saying to myself, maybe give them a chance, maybe say the team was a little tired. They played, I think, 5 or 6 straight games without a bye. So maybe, you have a little bit of an excuse there. But they came back. They played that Duke game. Duke scored, I think, the most points they scored all year in that game. on Miami in the first half. They played Wake Forest. I mean, that game was going into the fourth quarter was actually a game, and Wake Forest was
I think
terrible.
we destroyed them, didn't we, Gary? We destroyed Wake
No,
Forest.
it was close until the fourth quarter.
It was within reach till the fourth quarter. But you know what happens as the year goes on is people have tape. You know, people figure everything you're doing out. They know your personnel at that point of the season, and that's why you get exposed late in the year if you're not the real deal. And we saw it in 2017, and we saw it again this year. Like you know, they were exposed at the end.
I mean, and you know, Matt had a decent point also, and I was listening earlier. I mean, in the bowl game, you go one or two ways. You either go all in, as Bruce mentioned, with Cam Ward going all the way. You have Marti, you know, but everyone, you go all in, or you play the young kids. You don't do a mix because now what do we got? You know, who knows? Who knows? I mean,
but the young kids did play. I saw people say Justin Scott didn't play. He played. I saw him play. A lot of the kids played, but not so much in the first half.
Not
so
a ton of reps.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess. I mean, and Emory Williams. You know, I don't know. I mean, what do you do? I mean, you can't. I don't know if you could go into next year with everything on the kid. I don't know. I mean. And no, I heard you guys like recently saying the defense is going to be so much better next year. I'm just kind of wondering.
No, Matt said that.
Are we wishfully hoping that it's going to be better, or is it just?
Well, I think you got to hope that the new coordinator's got to get more out of Bain and Mesidor. Obviously, they've got to get Justin Scott playing and hope that he lives up to his billing. Some of these young defensive linemen have got to obviously develop. I still think they need to get some help in the portal up front. I hope they find it.
They got the Blake kid. But, but Gary knows this is true because he's known me for 35 years. I talk to all the former players constantly. And a lot of the D linemen I've been talking to. And they keep telling me the same thing. They're watching Miami play, and they're furious. They're stunting. And, I talk to guys, my friends like Caesar and Sapp and some of those guys. They don't do that. When they played, they went straight up the field and they busted up the offensive line and they got in the backfield. They didn't always make the tackles, but they created problems for the quarterback. These quarterbacks that we played this year all look like Heisman Trophy winners when we play them. Yeah. And they were able to step up. What?
I promise you that when Mario goes to hire this defensive coordinator in the coming days, the first mandate that he's going to give that guy before he offers the job is I want our defensive linemen to get back to being Miami defensive linemen again.
Absolutely.
There is no doubt in my mind. It was horrible what went on out there this year.
I've never.
Yeah, and I don't want to say anything bad about these guys because they're my friends. But, like my Roland Smith's my buddy, but he was no superstar. And a lot of these guys, when they had that front four or the front seven with Barrow and Darren Smith and Jesse and the front four they had, me and Gary could have played in the secondary and done well. They were so dominant. This secondary was bad to begin with, but without that pass rush, without the pressure on the quarterback, making this guy make mistakes, you can't really have a great secondary. And so Gary's right. Whoever comes in will be fixing that pass rush. And I'll bet you'll see Mesidor on the outside. I think they're going to be a lot better. That pass rush will be like this. Because the purpose of it is to free the linebackers up to make plays. Our linebackers were taking bad angles, missing tackles constantly.
Slow.
And they were getting blocked. You don't get blocked when you have a front four that takes up the front five guys. They're free to roam around. This whole defense has to be readjusted. But I also think that, and I'll let you go again, Schmeier. I'm sorry. They got to get somebody, I'm not saying Muschamp, but somebody that's former head coach experience to help Mario with the decisions. It's got to. Someone who's been there and knows what the hell's going on.
Look at Al Golden tonight.
Look at Al Golden.
Yeah, it's a perfect example.
A perfect example of it.
My biggest fear is I think this could have been having Cam Ward this year because it seemed like an all-in year could have been the best, but maybe the worst thing that could have happened to the building of this. And obviously you have the portal, so it makes things a little bit different than they were 10 years ago. But I mean, you didn't really develop any of these younger defensive ends too much. You kind of just brought in, portal guys to go all in, and how this team didn't make the playoffs is beyond me. I mean, you just had to have a defense that was.
How about this? They
above
choked. They
average.
blew a 21-0 lead in Syracuse. What former Miami team that won 10 games blew a 21-0 lead? I don't care if it was in Syracuse. The
Not
weather
just,
wasn't
not just
cold.
that. How about a 35-7 run in the middle of the game?
Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm a rebuilding Syracuse team. That's the guy's first. This guy's just putting that team together. I mean, so you're going to say you got beat by a quarterback? I mean, what did Miami have? I mean, it's unlike.
Listen, I don't look at Cam Ward as a curse at all. He was a blessing, and they can say the other guy that was on before talked about it as a blessing and a curse. He was no curse. The defense was the curse. That guy was spectacular.
Unbelievable. He's probably one of my favorite players I've seen play. I mean, just watching him play was just unbelievable. And you didn't. But you saw the team just kind of descending as the year was going on. And
yeah, like somebody
you guys
said 41-17 over the Gators, and that's what you said. And everybody, it got worse. Not the entire team. Here's another thing. I don't think anybody's spoken about this tonight. What happened to our special teams? We used to be so great. We haven't blocked a punt this century. And I had Tremaine Mack on a different show recently, and he can't believe what he's seeing.
How about return a punt? We can't even get a guy back there that catches the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, they bring back what's his name of that? I don't forget his name. Whatever that had all this hype. The guy doesn't even catch the ball in the punts.
Ray Joseph.
Ray Joseph. I'm surprised he didn't hit the portal. I mean, do you see any way he makes a?
I know, but I saw Shamar Kirk hit the portal today.
Oh, I mean, not surprised. I mean,
did you know that?
Shamar Kirk.
Yeah, he hit it today.
Anyone else I don't know if you guys say names. Anyone else you guys expect to hit the portal, or is it over now? I think
it's the third. Today, I think, is the last day.
Yeah,
that they can go.
No, but they could still go in the second portal.
That's true.
Yeah, right after spring practice. Yes.
So, what do you think is the most important thing for Miami to do? I think they have to get a quarterback. Otherwise, they can forget getting wide receiver. I know Matt said wait till the second portal. I don't know if they want to wait. You got to try to do something now. You can't just shut it down. But I don't know what great wide receivers are going to come here if we don't get somebody that people recognize. Wow, this is a better option than who we have. And I'm not going to mention names because I like Emory Williams a lot, but that was just a bad performance. It's a shame.
What do you like about him, though? Do you think he could take?
I like his accuracy. I like his smarts. I like his film study. I don't think exactly. Kenny Dorsey was a spectacular athlete with a cannon for an arm, but he was brilliant. And he saw what he saw. He took advantage of it. And, people saying that they should have run the ball and that Cam checked down off of it into a passing play. He's the quarterback. He sees what's going on. He moves pieces around. And if this guy's going to bite, I'm throwing the ball. Why should I run it when they're giving me all these options to throw the ball? He's that smart. We need to find somebody like that. But in this day and age, you got to be mobile. You don't have to be a running quarterback that runs in like Milrow. I think he's a running guy playing quarterback, but you got to be able to move. And I don't know if Williams could move. And Judd Anderson, he's even taller he's like 6'7". I don't know if he could move either. I mean, who knows? My gut tells me that Luke Nickel is probably going to get a shot at starting. I don't know if he's going to start.
It'll depend what they find in the portal.
Right. It depends on the portal. And if they get somebody in the portal, I agree with Matt. I think Emory Williams is gone.
I don't think he's gone anymore. I would have said that before the bowl game. I don't think he's got any leverage right now to go anywhere, and I don't think anybody would want him. And I think he'd be risking his whole football career.
Somebody may want him, but not necessarily in this
division. You haven't heard from Jake Garcia since he left, have you?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had a baby.
Would he go down to the back conference?
They got to be careful, man. They got to be careful. There's not going to be careful for everybody in the portal. All right, Shmira, any parting thoughts?
Just disappointed. I feel like we have this same parting conversation for the last how many years we've been doing this? 15 maybe. I mean, maybe not as disappointing as other years, but this was the year. And you watch all these games all weekend. These teams aren't that great that they're, I watched that Georgia Notre Dame. I mean, they look good, but I mean, nothing, our offense could not have lined up and played them. It's just disappointing. This was the year, the chips all in year, and we'll see. The portal always gives you opportunities. So I guess, we have next year. So
I think the portal negates Mario's strength.
I do too.
The NIL stuff is really diminished his quality. But then
Yeah.
again, we're not talking about the recruits. We're talking about coaching staff and lack of development and things
Yeah.
like schemes. The scheme was horrible this year. I mean, you had Mish Powell covering wide receivers in the slot. Are you serious? But they did. You saw Messidor cover. You saw other guys backpedaling to cover.
How about Mawanoa? He blew one big play every game for the last 6 games in coverage. I mean, it's unbelievable. Every game that guy was good for a big long pass against him. It's unbelievable.
And that's because those coaches are taking advantage of our weakness,
Yeah.
knowing we're not going to get to their quarterback.
No adjustments. None.
All right, Spyro, it's good to have you back on the show,
Yeah.
man.
All right. I'll catch up with you soon, Gary.
Hope we'll see you more next season.
Yep. Yeah. Kids are getting older.
All right, man. All right, let's go. I know he's been waiting patiently. Let's go to Everything 305. What's up, Everything? How are you, man?
He promised that he'd be on the video. I haven't seen him all year.
Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Just wanted to point out a few things. Number one, the biggest challenge he has is to find the right DC. I think, Gary, you had a nice column the other day on Clint. I don't know if it necessarily has to be him, but it has to be someone that is well versed and has had vast experiences. If you look what Al was able to do in getting a chance to go to the league and be a special teams coach, a linebackers coach, a co-DC, he had pretty good experiences. And sometimes, you got to grow as a teacher. We always think that, teachers are perfect, and they're not. You go ahead and you grow, you develop, and guess what? There are people that are competing against you to nullify what you're doing well and to find something new. And then the game changes, and then recruiting comes in. And this thing is a constantly changing business. So I think what he was able to do at Notre Dame, it needs to be given some major credit. But you also have to point out the situation that Marcus Freeman was able to inherit in Notre Dame. 9 years, Coach Kelly was there. They were very good in developing and recruiting the not only the front seven, but also their offensive line. Their trenches were very well coached, very well recruited. Marcus had a lot more to deal with coming in when he took over as the interim coach for the Fiesta Bowl than what Mario encountered here. You look at what Mario encountered when he went to Oregon, how bad that place was. And then Willie leaves, and look at how he developed them. It's quick. We live in this world that we forget. It's what's recent that matters, that has relevance and validity, and we forget the things that he has done. I'm not going to say that he's perfect, but I'm not going to go ahead and anoint Marcus Freeman if he happens to win a national championship this year. As C, that's why he's a better coach. It's also everything else that needs to come about and come together. And what you inherit has a lot to do with your success when you're rebuilding a program. And we omit that from the conversation because it doesn't make any sense to do so, because the narrative is this guy can't coach. He should have let Iowa State score with 2 minutes to go. We continue to harp on everything, but we don't look at, when we make these comparisons, we don't look at the entire picture either, because there's a narrative to fill out. There's a point to win. There's an argument to win. So I want to make that point. Going forward, he's got to find someone similar to what Al has been able to provide Marcus. I'm going to talk about a guy that, Gary, you might not like this part of the conversation, but I'm going to bring his name up. He's currently the associate head coach at Ohio State. He was here for about 3 or 4 years. He's a guy that went from a GA at Bowling Green, and that's where our paths kind of crossed a little bit back in the day. But I'm telling you, you need someone similar to him who's had 7 years of the NFL, who understand what it's like to be a CEO, who's a great position coach in the secondary, and who can call a defense. I think he's someone that would really fit the bill. You need someone like that, somebody like Clint. But those guys need to be
Who did he say? Who did you say?
Tim Walton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was here.
Yeah. But you need someone similar to that can focus on just doing exactly like what the guy at Ohio State has done the last 3 years with, revamping their defense. someone that, or like what Chip Kelly has done this year, or what Coach Gold has done the last few years. They focus on developing that side of the ball. They work with who they have, and they develop the kids.
Yeah,
You can't have a guy that's doing this gig and not understanding that that's what his priority is. Mario, as the CEO and his staff, and Gary, yeah, that staff has to get better. His personnel department has to improve. It's been a failure. You can flat out say it. We haven't got enough, even though we got Cam Ward this year. But as a whole, that's the exception, not the rule. At the amount of talent he's brought in, that's got to get better. But that's what Mario's good at. He's got to have a guy that he can say, take care of the offense, you take care of the defense, and I go ahead and I run this.
What do you think he's doing?
I
Dawson's not handling the defense, and Guidry's not doing the offense.
I don't think you've had someone that has been able to. I don't think you've had someone that's been able to focus primarily on being a DC or an OC.
I don't understand. I don't understand your point.
They spend way too much time. If you'll let me finish, Bruce, they spend way too much time working on recruiting. You got to focus on.
I don't
know about that. I would say they don't spend enough time on recruiting.
I think it's the opposite, Gary. You're when you're trying to develop, so you're not seeing the whole picture. You're not just developing your players, you're developing your coaches. And your coaches are spending way too much time recruiting. They've got to become better teachers, because what you continue to see day in and day out, year in, year out, we're not getting better. You got 20 years worth of film proof. Guys don't get better here. They go backwards. So your teaching has to get better. Mario and his staff, the personnel department, they'll handle the recruiting part. Your part is when they come in, they visit. You don't have to spend an hour every day calling everybody. If you're a DC, you really don't.
But what do you think they did all season in the offseason? What do you think Guidry was doing? That's his scheme. He runs it through the safeties. But I don't like that scheme. And I'm always, these things don't always come out of my mouth because of me. I get this from, I get them from all these players. And they're telling me, they told me in practice, I went to spring and I went to fall practice with a few of these guys, and they're all standing there telling me they don't like how the front four looks. They don't like the way they're just bouncing off the guys. They're playing with hand fighting and they're stunting. Get up the field. That's what they kept on saying. They're not doing it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and rip everybody and say Mario's wrong, but I'm telling you what I was told. And the whole season, they didn't do it.
No, they tried to get Guidry to change, and he was stubborn. He wouldn't change.
Well, that's a scheme. That's a scheme thing. But your coaches, your running backs have to be better. Your tight ends have to be better.
You don't think our running backs were good this year?
You've got to continue to focus on teaching, Bruce. We keep forgetting how critical it is.
To the choir, I know that, but they had a pretty damn good running
back position could not have been much better this year.
Across the board,
wow, my God, is he incredible?
Pass protection could have gotten better. Yeah, it could have. Everything could get better. You're missing the big point. The big point is the teaching component is lacking, and consistency is lacking. And when you look at a guy like the coach who just left Wake Forest, those guys, for the last 10, 15 years he was there, you knew what you're getting into. Well-coached teams, very few penalties, execute, know their assignments. We don't have that. We have a ton of talent. We've had a ton of talent, or we think we have talent, and then they don't put things together somehow. That's the consistency we have as a program. We're not coached well enough. So that means that your coordinators have to do an even better job of teaching their assistants what it is they need to do. Teaching is from the top to the bottom, and I don't think you've got great teachers. I think you've got tons of talent.
Really, I think Kevin Beard's a damn good teacher and a hell of a communicator.
He is.
And people asked before about JoJo Trader. Why didn't he play that much? A, he was hurt somewhat. And B, I asked Kevin that, and he said he's not ready to play all the time. His blocking needs work. His route running needed work. Yeah, he's good. We know who he is, but he said he wasn't ready. So
okay, well, Bruce, I'll counter that. How much better did Jacoby George get mentally, physically, and discipline-wise? How much better did he get?
Let the whole team down, let the program down, let the fans down. I mean, that penalty he got in that Syracuse game.
You want another example? how much better did Isaiah Horton get? He got a ton,
a lot
he
better.
got
A lot better.
Route running still wasn't there, but guess what Isaiah had that Brown didn't have? He had a little bit more passion, and he definitely played with a little bit of a chip on the shoulder. Brown just went through the motions and played.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because you
That's
paid
true.
him. Because you paid him, Bruce, so he had to play.
Yeah.
And a great teacher
Listen,
says,
I'm not
sorry.
saying that. You're saying that. I don't give a damn how much the guy makes. If he's not good enough, he's not playing. But that's just me.
There's an example. As a teacher, you hold your students accountable. And I didn't see a lot of accountability with some certain guys. And
All right,
I'm
everything.
good
Listen,
example.
give us the everything 305 summation here. Yeah, how do you sum the whole
You
thing?
got to
Come on,
get the
Gary, I
right.
have to go to sleep by 2-3 o'clock.
You got to find the right DC. He's got to be well versed. He's got to have a great track record. That's number one. Number two, you've got to fix your personnel department. You've got to do exactly what you mentioned earlier, Garrett. I thought that's what we were doing. We had all these guys like Pat and Hippolyte, all these guys on the staff, coach over at Central, Roland Smith. We have all these guys, and yet we've missed on a ton of guys. It's not that they're leaving for greener pastures. They're being asked to leave. That means you're failing in your evals.
We got to
You're
find
not
some of
doing
these
a good job.
Jeremiah Smiths in the 8th grade, not when they're juniors and seniors. That's part of the problem. We're on these guys late. Can't be.
Well, I mean, but you've got to get better in that department. So those are the two things going forward. You can't fail. And in terms of a quarterback, getting a quarterback, the last day you could enroll at UM is the 22nd of January. So you got 20 days. Any team that lost today, any team that loses next week, those kids still have their 5 days after their bowl game. So they can still hit the portal. Mm-hmm. Is there any sexy name out
guys
there?
that have announced for the portal don't have to go. They could change their mind.
Yeah, I mean, can somebody come about in the next couple of weeks, in the next week or two? Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe somebody does come. But you've got to have enough confidence in Mario, and this is why I will always applaud him. He did get Cam Ward. A lot of you guys would say, well, we would have been 8-4 without Cam Ward. We would have been 7-5. Guess what, champ? He did his fucking job.
Yeah, he's supposed to apologize for recruiting a great player? Come on.
Got him. He got it done. So I hate when we put these labels. Yeah, but without him, that doesn't matter. It's with him because he did come. He did play. He did break all the records.
Florida States are stupid anyway because they keep on saying, I don't know if they're still saying it, but we screwed them out of Cam Ward. He was never going to Florida State. And they should know that already. It's been said a million times. It was the draft or Miami. Case closed.
It's our own fan base, Bruce. It's our own people that make this comment over and over and over again. Hey, listen, if the kid wanted to play one quarter, hey, buddy, here you go. You've been running the whole program, the offense. You've been the face of this program for basically 10 months. Yeah, here you go. Here's the ball. Do what you want to do. I don't understand when you are successful, then it's you have to be criticized based on how you brought this kid about and you failed with everybody else. Mario will find a way to make this program better. I don't know if it's ever going to win a national championship again. I don't know if we're going to win 10 games again. Maybe not. Might be an 8-4 team again for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
But as Gary mentioned earlier, no one's going to outwork the staff. And we had somebody talking about D-Train, getting rid of D-Train. Please, man. That's the least
Most
of
people
our
don't
worries.
even know who D-Train is.
They
but
have no idea.
he does a lot for the program. He just needs help. All right, everything. Listen, got to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of the show this year. We'll talk to you again in August.
Happy New Year,
Canes,
buddy.
baby. Go Canes. Happy New Year, boys.
All right, man. Thank you. All right, let's go to Adam. Adam, welcome back to CaneSport Live. How are you, my man?
Good, Gary. Real quick on a basketball note.
Last time you were on the
Look at
show.
that hair, man. I like that hair.
Yeah.
What are you trying out for Bozo the Clown?
On a basketball note, hearts out to Coach L. What a wonderful career. Got us to a Final Four and an Elite Eight. So,
Coach L.
To Coach L. Real quick. What is the timeline for a DC hire? Is this going to go a couple months or is
Better not.
I don't think there's a timeline. What, like, other than the fans' anxiousness, what's the urgency? I mean, right now it's all about what players you bring in, and then it'll be time to have the defensive coordinator start getting ready for spring. But there's no emergency on that right now. I don't
Is
think.
there any possibility that by not bringing somebody in within the next week or two, that some of our defensive recruits may say, I don't know who's going to be there. Maybe I ought to go someplace else. Because these teams are always getting rated.
Too much opportunity on that side of the ball for all the
now
other
there
guys.
is, yeah.
Do you think there will be one in place before? And I know it's not a big deal, like the February signing day.
I like to think so.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
And you don't know if Mario's more looking NFL.
I think he's looking everywhere, but I think
Anthony Campanelli or college, like a Tim
he
Banks.
tried to hire that guy twice already. I don't know, but the thing is, everybody in the NFL is still coaching.
That's true.
So if you're looking at NFL, you can't really make moves yet. And a lot of college guys, the number's dwindling, but on you still got 4 teams that are going to be playing. So I don't know. I think he's looking at the whole landscape, trying to find the right guy, and hopefully he does this time. Mario needs that.
I think as we said before, the scheme is important. He doesn't want the same thing again. So he wants a teacher. He wants someone with the scheme that he thinks is going to win, and the experience of it, because the defensive line has always been the crux of our championship teams. The offensive line, but more importantly, the defensive line. They've dominated teams for years, and it hasn't been like that in a while now.
That's true. A couple other things. Were we ever really in on Mendoza, or was that just pure speculation before he went to Indiana?
They could have if they wanted to be. There was a brief private meeting, but I don't think it ever went anywhere. I think Mendoza was going to make enough money somewhere else from Indiana that Miami probably wasn't willing to go there and commit to that right now, because I think they want to see who is available.
Okay. But you do see them bringing in a transfer quarterback and not rolling with Emory and the
100%. I don't know if Emory will beat that guy out, but they will. I think they will 100% get a quarterback in the portal before they're done here.
Okay. And who knows? It might. I don't know if maybe Carson Beck pulls a Cam Ward and withdraws from the drafting.
Wouldn't shock me. I didn't think he was so good this year. I really didn't.
Did he sign with an agent yet or no?
I don't think so.
Not an NFL
Milroe either. I think Milroe could come back to, maybe not to Bama.
Milroe declared for the NFL today.
But that doesn't mean anything.
You're correct, right? It doesn't.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what Ward was saying. He was going. I don't think Milroe's ready. He needs another year like Cam did.
Yes, he does.
A couple other things. Do we have a real shot with the Branch brothers, or was this just a trip to Miami?
No, I think there's a real shot. I mean, everything we're being told is that there's a real shot. I think they'll take 1 or 2 more visits, and then we'll see what they do. I mean, I think it's a great opportunity for those guys here.
Okay.
Branch would be the focal point of the receivers thing. I mean, he's amazing.
And his brother could be a starting safety.
He'll be
his brother's more developmental.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be in the rotation with Poyer and
he could.
Saquon and.
But the receiving branch, Zechariah, is an elite dude. If he's used properly, that guy is an elite dude.
And a couple other things. One, I think I saw from Pete Nakos. Are we in on Davis, or is he all UW? Takaro Davis, the cornerback out of Arizona.
He's there. We don't really have a feel for how seriously he's considering coming to Miami. I mean, we haven't seen anything to make us think yes. But
are we in on any other DBs or cornerbacks specifically?
Well, Xavier Lucas.
Yeah, Xavier Lucas.
If he ends up in the portal, he's an American heritage kid, probably would be in the picture here.
Okay, but no one out.
Not sure about others right now.
And the final thing for quarterbacks, are we in on that kid from South Dakota State, Gronkowski?
I think he's one of several they're looking.
Yes,
one of several they're looking at. Whether he ends up actually visiting, we don't know yet.
And I mean, I would like Devin Brown, but he's such an unknown from Ohio State, and you could end up with another Tate Martell.
Big unknown.
Yeah. Anyway,
What happened to the other kid from Ohio State, Gary? The left-handed quarterback.
Aaron Nolan went to South Carolina.
Oh, he
Yeah.
did? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think we were in on him.
Were there any other quarterbacks, real quick, that we were in on besides Mater?
Not to this point. Not that we know of. I mean, they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes. You got to realize with all these agents now, they're putting out feelers all the time, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And we
False
were never
rumors.
in on like Malik Murphy or Mensa or Castellano or any of them.
No.
Castellano. Isn't he at Florida State?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying
Oh.
like before they chose their schools.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking my call. Have
All
a
right,
great
Adam. Hey,
rest of
thank
the
you
day.
so much for being part of the show all year, man.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
My
Appreciate it,
pleasure.
buddy.
We appreciate you, and we'll see you in
Happy New
August.
Year.
See
Happy
you in
New Year.
August.
All right, Adam. All right, Bruce. Before we go, any closing thoughts you have?
I think that the 9-0 created a lot of false expectations and set the table up for unless they went 12-0, this was going to happen. And I think that all year long that defense was a house of cards, and it collapsed, and it killed us. And fortunately, we were able to win games where they blew leads, or we were so far behind, but we had the magic man. So 10 wins, I guess, when you look at it with that defense, is pretty damn good, I guess. I don't know what else to say, because who thought they were going to be that bad and the offense so good? So I guess I'm not happy. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed we didn't at least get to the ACC title game. And I do want to see better special teams. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. We've got to be better on special teams. We're missing out on so many easy points and field position in the games because of it. I'm hoping we get a DC like Muschamp or somebody who's been a head coach, because that could help Mario out. I mean, I know everybody's talking about the Tennessee defensive guy. I believe he'd probably be a great hire, but I don't know what experience he has.
Okay at Tennessee.
He did okay. Ohio State lit him up.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the end all to be all. I mean, if he ends up being the best guy Mario can get, then he's the best guy Mario can get. But
do you believe that the offense is going to take a significant drop because all the guys that are not there now?
It's not going to be the same. It's going to be different. They're going to run the ball more next year. There's no doubt about it. But there's a belief inside the program that Jordan Lyle can be one of the great Miami running backs, and he's going to get a chance next season to be that.
Right. It'll be him and Fletcher.
It'll be him and Fletcher as the dynamic
what a
duo.
combo that is. And they love Pringle too. They rave about this kid. He's good.
Yeah, Pringle could be good. Yeah. So listen, it's going to be different. Will the stats be the same? I don't know. Cam Ward put up some serious numbers this year, but Cam Ward's agenda was to put up serious numbers this year. I think next year's offense is going to be more geared towards winning, doing what they need to do to win the games. And
probably more along the lines of Erickson and Steve Walsh and the guys like that weren't like these big gunslingers like Testaverde, but we still went undefeated in a couple.
But when they need to make a play, they make a play.
Yes,
and the thing I would say, and I may take some heat for this, is stick behind the program, stick behind Mario. Before he came here, I said he was the right guy to get this done. I don't believe any less that he's not the right guy to get this done. He's made a bunch of mistakes. No argument. It has not been as easy as I'm sure he expected it to be, and a lot of people expected it to be, but nobody was counting on how much college football was going to change the last 3 years. This is a whole different deal than what it was when Mario Cristobal was at Oregon and when he came to the U. And Miami had a head start in NIL with John Ruiz. God bless him. There's no head start anymore. Everybody's got money. Everybody's got budgets. Miami doesn't have the biggest stick anymore. And there's a lot that has to be managed. There's a lot that has to be thought about. There's a lot that's going to have to change. I think Mario Cristobal is going to be out in front of that here as he goes into this next cycle. I think we're already seeing it in guys going to the portal, like the Shamar Kirks of the world, the Deontay Hills of the world, the Jaden Harrises of the world. One by one, we have been seeing these guys go to the portal because they are not at the level that Miami needs to be at. And Miami also can't have fluff on its roster. And I think you're going to see the roster size shrink. Like I said earlier in the show, people are talking about 105 players. Forget about that. That is totally ridiculous. You're not going to see Miami carry 105 players.
Nope.
It's a waste of money. You can only have 44 starters and 44 in the 2 deep. I think rosters are going to settle somewhere in the 65 to 70 range so that you could properly utilize your funds in revenue sharing, in NIL. I think this is a whole new ball game that we're getting ready to see here in the next 12 months. I think Mario will be out ahead of it. I think he'll have a plan. He's got to make this defensive coordinator hire count in a big time way. He needs the help. But, to the fans, and I thank all you guys for supporting us at CaneSport, being part of our website, being part of our message boards, watching this show on Tuesday night, our other shows on YouTube. What I would say is stick behind the program. Don't be a divisive force over here on the side that is just a distraction for parents, giving fodder to the haters of the program, the other schools who are taking all the social media comments that you make and sending them in emails to recruits and parents and just trying to stir the pot and make things more difficult here. We won 10 games this year. Bruce, before the season started, when I did my prediction, I said 10 wins.
Right.
Not sitting here saying I'm a genius because I picked it right for the second year in a row, I might add. But I'm going to put my Lamar Thomas hat on for a moment. But no, I think 10 was a realistic number going into the season when you looked at the roster.
10 was the minimum for most of us.
But because of
9 wasn't going to be good enough
because of the flashiness of Cam Ward.
Right.
I think it made a lot of people ignore the deficiencies that still exist.
Yeah.
There is not a ton of impact talent on this roster, and there was not a ton of impact talent, certainly maybe none on the defensive side of the ball.
Right. And we said that during the season, who will the offensive coordinator look at? We better shut this guy down. We better watch out for there's nobody. And it's been like that for a while.
And
I think he's got to hit a
committee.
Oh, yeah. He has to hit. The defensive coordinator has to be a big-time hire that we all are rally around. And 2, he needs to get a quarterback. He really does. Because if he doesn't get either one of those 2, these fans are going to be in the offseason the same thing. So I think he has a chance. If he gets a quarterback that we support and we gets a coordinator we support, I'm expecting the defense to be better next year. I don't care who he hires. I'm expecting it to be better. Clint Hurt, he knows this system. He's here. He knows what Mario wants. I don't know if he's going to be the selection, but that's what we need. We need an aggressive, attacking front 4. Anyway,
all right, guys.
Happy New Year to everybody, and everybody be healthy and have a healthy New Year. We'll see you. Oh, one guy said, "How do I know that Emory Williams is good?" Because you've seen him, and I've seen him. I've been down to practices. I've seen him. He's got tremendous accuracy, and he did beat Clemson last year, even though that was a dummy down offensive play. But and then he almost beat Florida State up there. So I figured this kid's got guts. He's not afraid of anything. That was just a bad performance for whatever the circumstances were. And maybe he didn't even know he was getting in the game. Who knows?
Yeah, he looked very unprepared for that game. I didn't like the way Shannon Dawson never settled him into it. And it was it was a bad deal all the way around. He's better. He is better than what you saw at the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Now, a lot of pressure on him coming off of that performance. He's got to put it behind him. He's got to get back to work. He's got to get his head straight. And hopefully here he comes back in spring practice and is back to being the accurate quarterback that he is. If he ends up being the best quarterback on the roster, everyone will get behind him. I do think that he needs another year of development, and they need to they need to get somebody in the portal who has experience that can help right away.
Yep.
All right, Bruce. Thank you so much for being part of the show all season. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to all you guys out there. Like I said, thank you for all your support of CaneSport. We will be grinding it out here every single day for you guys to make sure that you're the most informed fans in America when it comes to your team. And we'll be covering this transfer portal transition and the DC hire like crazy for you. So for Matt Shodell, Bruce Warner, I'm Gary. Thank you again for everybody who participated. We will see you with this show in August, but obviously all of our coverage will continue at CaneSport.com.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.